Welcome back to the Pot of Greed.
Yeah, that's right. Welcome back. A couple days late this week.
My bad, y'all. That's on me.
Well, sort of. I mean, the reason why is because we had to wait for the Sony State of Play.
We waited with bated breath, and
yeah, we'll talk about
there's some amount of pointedness.
Yeah, we were like, oh, this will be cool. We can kind of wait and give our reactions to the exciting news. And that could be like a focal point of the podcast this week.
And we can certainly react. That's what we're doing.
Spoilers,
that today.
There's less to say than we expected, but there are things to say. So, yeah. Anywho, hopefully you guys are still having a pretty good week. Press a 1 in the chat if you're watching the premiere live. We'd appreciate it.
Put your ones up.
Anywho, we're going to start with a review like we do.
What you got?
So this is from We2.
We2?
That's
like
We_TOO.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like that's just their name on here. They gave us 5 stars. Their review is called Don't Quit Early. So I guess they're referring to what I was talking about in that one video the other week.
Ooh,
hey guys, love your content. I actually got back into Yu-Gi-Oh after coming across your YouTube channel. Awesome. I am a 31-year-old father of 3, and I casually play Master Duel whenever I get the chance.
I'm 31 too.
And what you're saying about quitting early is so true.
Father of none.
I currently play Tier Horus and had 3 games recently on my rank up to Master 5 from Diamond 1, where I was about to surrender, but I thought about what you said, and I won those games because my opponent just simply couldn't outgrind me, or they made a mistake and quit when I was dead in the water. I cannot wait to teach my children this wonderful game. Awesome.
I think even more importantly than teaching your kids to play Yu-Gi-Oh, it's important to teach them to not give up early.
I mean, I think they're both great lessons. How to play Yu-Gi-Oh and how to not give up. Seriously, though, I really do like this review because it, supports what I said.
Yeah, it
so that makes it a perfect. That validates me.
It's like now it's a 5 out of 5 review.
Yeah,
You're
10 out of 5
reviewing the review.
Yeah, I would give this review a 10 out of 5. No, I really, I mean, I'm not going to harp on this for too much more. I know people have mixed thoughts on the whole,
yeah, I read the comments.
Giving up on Yu-Gi-Oh. Some people clearly did not agree with that. But I really do think, people give up too easily in Yu-Gi-Oh! And that you can find so many victories you wouldn't otherwise find by just, sticking with it and letting your opponent kind of make those mistakes or kind of trying to, grind them, or can you bait them? Can you bluff? Can you just do something to extend the game a little bit and perhaps pick up a win in the process?
I get stubborn. It's not even that I'm really trying to find a way to win. I'm just like, no, you're not saving any time here. You are going to beat me.
Yeah, I actually saw somebody on Twitter, somebody that's actually done an art thumbnail for us once before.
Oh, okay.
They were saying how they were like, I also stuck with some Master Duel games and ended up picking up some wins. So I thought that was.
I noticed that this subject has been just Master Duel, so maybe we should just quit in real life, but then stick out Master Duel games. That sounds like a good compromise.
I mean, I think it's actually more relevant in Master Duel to stick with it because they're best of one. Yeah, that was Alejandro Pupo, by the way. He's an artist, very very good artist as well. So shout outs to him. And Rhyme Style actually agreed, and he was just like, people give up too easy. They don't know what you have in your hand. And, they would know they play a lot of Master Duel as well.
Man, you had a lot of people supporting your thoughts just in the tuck. You was ready to bring them out.
I mean, I did. I saw this, and I was like, I got to bring this up. Some people know. I mean, I think the vast majority think that you should just always give up and quit. I don't have the time for this. But there are people who see the other side as well. Anyways, though, thank you for the review. And also, teaching your kids how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Hey, good luck, because it can be a little hard. But I'm sure they'll like it.
I think kids will actually have an easier time learning Yu-Gi-Oh! Than adults.
That's true.
I've tried to show adults how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And it feels like I have to break out a picture book.
I think it's also probably easier because kids now, I say nowadays, I mean, any kids really are faster to pick things up and they wouldn't have as many preconceptions.
Yeah.
These days, half the preconception of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is it used to be like this and I don't want to learn these new things.
It's kind of the boomer mindset. Not making fun of Yu-Gi boomers. I'm 31 too, but the kids have no idea of what Yu-Gi-Oh was, so I think they'll have an easier time accepting what it is now.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit easier to pick up and get to. Well, anywho, speaking of Yu-Gi-Oh, some Yu-Gi-Oh stories and conversations in the community that we can touch on. Nothing super major, I would say, but
I got some fun stuff.
Yeah, there are a few things. What were you? You can start. Because I'm looking for something actually.
So this one's not much of a story, but it's a Reddit post that someone made in response to our video with the professor where...
did they? I haven't seen this. Okay.
Continue. Okay. So it's a Reddit post. It says, I saw this video by Team APS and Tellurian Community College where they turn Yu-Gi-Oh cards into Magic the Gathering cards, and I want to do my take on those cards. So if you've seen our video, you saw that we gave the professor a list of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and he had to translate them into Magic. This person did the same thing. Mm-hmm. We're going to evaluate how this person did, and what's fun is they actually went ahead and put the Yu-Gi-Oh card images and text on these template Magic cards.
Oh, okay.
So I'll go ahead and give it a start. I'll start off with the first one, Triple Tactics Talent, and I do have pictures of all of them right here.
Oh boy, you're making my editing job so much easier.
Triple Tactics, 0 cost.
Okay.
Sorcery.
Okay.
So it's essentially a spell speed 1.
Yeah. I won't be able to actually assess any of these, right? I don't know anything. I only know how to play Magic, so I'll follow your lead and,
all right,
take your word for it.
So if a creature entered the battlefield under an opponent's control this turn during your main phase.
Okay.
Draw 2 cards, or gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until the end of turn, so you can use it immediately. Look at target opponent's hand and choose a card from it. Its owner then shuffles it into their library. So that's interesting. You're not taking the card and putting it in your hand. You're just gonna shuffle their card into the deck.
Well, that's what Triple Tactics does.
It does do that, huh?
Yeah, it doesn't. You're thinking like exchange.
I'm thinking of something.
Yeah, I think that's actually a great one-to-one translation of Triple Tactics. I know one of the things that I saw people comment on the video is that, and to be fair to the professor, we literally gave him these cards moment of.
He never read them before.
And he'd never read these cards and didn't really entirely always understand how the card functions in a Yu-Gi-Oh context on the spot. So I think for some of the Magic equivalents that he made, they might not have made perfect sense because he's just not understanding the application that said card has. I think this person nailed Triple Tactics Talent really down to a T. What is the cost on it?
0.
Oh, there's no cost on it.
What a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually true, though. If you think about how Yu-Gi-Oh works, Triple Tactics Talent is supposed to be a card where the only real stipulation is that your opponent did something. Mm-hmm. And, I think that they capture the Yu-Gi-Oh DNA here really well and just saying, yeah, as long as your opponent's done this, you just get to cast this for basically free. I mean, this
is a conditional card. If it had an extra cost on top of it, you might just say, well, I don't think it's worth it, really. Mm-hmm. All right. Next up is Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring.
Okay, so what do they have? Let me see it, actually. I need to see these visually.
3 cost water.
Okay.
It's got creature zombie. And I'll read it out. And it's also got 0 strength, 5 toughness.
Okay, really high defense.
That is high. What's Ash defense?
Ash is 1,800 defense.
Maybe that's fine. Yeah. All right, let's see what it says. So you discard Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. If a spell or ability would cause a player to mill 1 or more cards, or a spell or ability would cause a player to search their library for a non-land card, counter that spell or ability. This ability triggers only once each turn. And you can't use... It gets a hard once per turn clause.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, and any effects that would mill or an effect that would search from the deck.
Yeah.
That sounds
cool.
ashy.
Yeah, that's very
What are we missing?
Awesome. I mean, I guess special summon from deck, but Magic doesn't seem like it gets cards like that too often. I don't think I've seen that, really.
So, yeah.
I think this is a good translation of it. I mean, I would say that this sort of card doesn't seem like it'd be as good in Magic, just because Magic has these things feel less integral to Magic strategies.
So I've played
maybe the Soul Ring type of cards.
I've played against quite a few different decks that like to mill. Decks do like to search. However, in Commander, you can only have one of these Ash Blossoms.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how impactful this would be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with 4 or 3 other opponents, you'll certainly find a time to use it, but its impact would be very low.
Yeah, I think it'd be limited. Because a lot of times what I find especially in Commander, even if you can only run 1 copy of a card, you run cards with kind of redundant effects to try and reach your win condition.
I've been picking up on that too. I was watching some Magic guides recently. Some of the professors actually and redundancy, like just finding cards that have a near equal effect to what your deck wants to do, since you're like, doing 100 different cards.
Now I will say this, is even though this is a 3-cost card, its effect says you just discard it, so I don't think you actually have to pay the cost on it.
I mean, so the cost is just to like...
Just to
like summon it if you wanted to.
If you want to casting this creature, you'd pay that. But it says discard Ash Blossom.
Yeah.
So I guess
interesting.
Like in true Yu-Gi-Oh fashion, it's free.
It's kind of free. All right, one more.
All right. So the next one is one of your favorite cards ever.
Okay.
Evenly matched.
Evenly matched. I want to hear how they translated this.
All right. So it is an instant trap card. I don't know if trap's actually a designation in MTG, but they put trap.
They're adding it in.
Oh, so it says so. Instant says that it's a spell speed 2 card. Mm-hmm. Cast this spell only during combat and after the combat damage step. So this is essentially after they finished combat. Right. Essentially, if you control no permanents, you may cast this from your hand without paying its mana cost. So there wasn't a mana cost on here. So
maybe they kind of forgot.
They forgot. But still that sounds like evenly. If an opponent controls more permanents than you do, count the number of permanents you control. Each opponent chooses permanents they control equal to that number, then exiles the rest. Then
I get it.
Okay, now it has a magic keyword that I don't know.
Okay, what's there?
So it says foretell, and it says 6 and then 1 mana. I don't know what foretell means.
Let me take a look. I might. Foretell?
Yes, foretell, 6 and 1 mana. This might be the cost that you have to pay, but I don't understand. A keyword
ability that lets a player exile cards from their hand and cast them for an alternative cost on future turns.
Interesting.
I don't entirely understand because
essentially, in like the way you would set, how we set a trap and then we can activate it later.
Yeah,
you would cast this, or you pay the foretell cost, exile it, and then you'd use it at some later point in the game.
Yeah. Okay. They say foretelling is optional, so you can always just cast the spell as normal if you're looking for a more immediate impact. Interesting. So I suppose the foretell gets to be skipped if you're using it from your hand while you have no permanents.
I think so. That sounds about right.
Huh. This person did honestly a great job then, like with just what we've seen so far.
And guys, we'll link the Reddit post so you can go through and evaluate the rest of these cards at your own leisure, because they seemingly did go through every single card we covered. Yeah,
we covered some interesting ones. Like I know we did like Diabell Star and Boil Sword Dragon and stuff. So yeah, they probably did a much better job just knowing. I think a person who truly knows both games pretty in and out would be able to.
Honestly, these would make fun proxies to have.
Yeah, they look
just
good.
Looking at them, they look nice.
The full arts are like crisp and detailed. Okay, so I've got the Yu-Gi-Oh news for the day.
All right, feed us.
There's a few different things that have basically happened. One exciting thing is that we got a announcement sort of trailer, I suppose you could call it, for Worlds. I'll show you here.
I haven't seen this. I'll move my tab out of the way.
And I'll play it on. So basically, it shows like these different monsters that like the deck that won Worlds that year.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what was going on here.
Yeah, like Gladiator Beast won in 2008, Black Wings 2009, that sort of thing. It's like a really cool effect. Whoever worked on the visuals for this, they did a good job.
It shows how little attention I've been paying to Worlds over the years.
I didn't really follow what won Worlds because it's kind of, it's its own format.
I didn't realize Blue Eyes won Worlds in 2016.
Yeah, you get to 2018 and then eventually 2019, and then we like skip the COVID years.
We just move on past that. Why was Silent Magician in 2018?
It might have been used in it. I'm not really sure. Okay, so 2024, the United States of America and Seattle, and they show the dates and stuff for
Is that prizing right there? What was that last thing?
Like Road to Worlds prizing that you can get and stuff.
Gotcha. The Road to Worlds campaign is back, everybody.
Yeah, so basically it's an announcement of the Road to Worlds campaign that you can play in Rush Duel, Duel Links, Speed Duel, Duel Links, or Master Duel. And that also, that it's going to be in Seattle. A little strange, given that, It's weird that they're like announcing Seattle, Washington, as though like you can go to it, which we know you can't go. Like you can't spectate anyway.
It's weird to so publicly announce where it's going to be held when that doesn't matter
to the average
because we
player.
Can't go.
I mean, I guess it maybe matters more to the Japanese player because this was technically like the trailer was kind of from the Japanese team pretty clearly, and so for like those players over in the OCG or whatever,
they're like, I can't wait to go to Seattle.
Yeah, like I can't wait for my chance to go to the United States and go to Seattle and like win.
Stop saying it like that. I can't wait to go to Seattle, Seattle, Washington, the most hyped place in the United States.
Yeah, still a kind of odd spot to do their Worlds, but
you're gonna be here for one weekend and you're going to Seattle.
Very cool trailer, however. I liked the effects.
It's gonna rain the whole time.
I think it was nice. So
it's gonna try some Starbucks.
Listen, I'm trying to be optimistic here. Play your Yu-Gi-Oh Master Duel Road to Worlds campaigns and try to win, and you too can get a chance to go to Seattle and play in front of Konami R&D.
Yeah, I mean
that's probably who all is going to be in the crowd. Maybe a few media people.
I would hope that they don't lock them in the back rooms to play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that they at least learn that much. Maybe they can contribute more to the budget in that way because they won't have to like appease
anybody.
A bunch of people showing up. Also, we got some looks at the 2024 World Championship qualifier main event mat and like top cut mat and Dragon Duel stuff. So if you get top cut, you get this cool mat that's infinite impermanence.
I like that. Got
the Cyber Dragon's very blue and electricity. The participation mat is the Vanquish Soul mat, which I'm so upset about because like. This feels.
You need to get that.
Yeah, I know. I really want to try to get one. This feels really random and dated since like Vanquish Soul came out last summer, so it's like
it is older.
A little odd, point. But I do like how it looks like a character select screen and like it's got Stake Your Soul and all that stuff on it. So I definitely want to get a copy of this. I also love that they have the like random button.
That's a good one.
Character select screen.
That's a good one.
And then also Dragon Duels get the same mats, but it just says Dragon Duel Championship.
I've forgotten Dragon Duel still existed.
Yeah, so these are the things, the mats at least, that you can get for playing in Worlds. It's also a good time, I think, then, to transition into another topic, which has been around Yu-Gi-Oh! Prize support, actually. Some top players have been coming out and, saying, like, they don't really feel that Yu-Gi-Oh! Prize support has been great lately. We probably aren't the best people to comment on this, since, I'm not really...
I just want to poke a needle in that statement.
Okay.
You said Yu-Gi-Oh! Prize support hasn't been great lately. When was it great?
Yeah, I guess the lately part. Yeah, the lately part is So the lately part, I guess, is that other card games have been coming out. Games like One Piece, games like Pokemon's been out for a long time, but games like Lorcana and One Piece that have pricing that seems to be worth a lot more on the secondary market. And in the case of One Piece and Lorcana, they're not actually giving cash prizes either, but they're just giving these like sort of promo packs and promo cards and like signed cards and exclusives that seem to be worth a lot more than the like kind of odd Yu-Gi-Oh! Prize card that people don't seem to really value and just like the like the top cut mats and stuff like that.
Well, I don't know too much about these other games. What I've noticed, what a lot of other card games do, they like to print like special editions of playable cards, promos, stamped versions of these cards, and then they end up on the secondary market, and they have more value than like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Prize card because they're actually usable. If you were like, oh, I want to bling out my deck, or I just want this is my favorite monster, my favorite creature, I can get this trophy version of it.
Alt arts are a big thing with that too. Like I think so. I agree with you, for sure. I'm very surprised that we haven't kind of gotten alt arts or alt rarities for prizing. Because, like, I'm sorry, but another verse Glatonia and all that stuff and another verse Dragon, they're just random vanillas that no one has any feelings toward.
That's true.
Like, I look at them and I'm just like, oh, like, the art's kind of neat, but I don't really know what this is and it doesn't mean anything to me. Meanwhile, though, like, getting a special art of Ash Blossom or even a special rarity of it, a card that can go into any of my decks and like be a staple, and it flexes that like I was one of the ones who like topped this YCS or whatever. So that could be really cool.
Years ago, it was during that period where Ghost Rares were gone and we weren't sure when they were going to come back. So it was before Ghost in the Past.
Oh, dude, Ghost is prizing.
Yeah, I remember that was my thought. I was like, what if our prize cards were Ghost versions of popular cards? Because they could be extremely exclusive and highly sought after.
Yeah. Here's a tweet from Jeff Jones on Twitter. For those who don't know, Jeff Jones, very acclaimed Yu-Gi-Oh player.
He was at the UDS event.
Yeah, played for many, many years, won many, many things, and actually is the winner of YCS Edison 2010, the format that kind of defines the popular snapshot format
himself.
I hope the success of One Piece and Lorcana pushes Konami Japan to take a look at how they run Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Offers such unique gameplay experiences compared to all other games that scratch parts of my and other people's brains in ways that most other games can't. But what I want to happen is for KDE Japan to see how archaic they are and realize that other games are coming for them. They can either adapt and modernize their structure or be left behind. He goes on to say, things I believe should change to modernize Yu-Gi-Oh! Sets. Magic, Pokemon, One Piece, and Lorcana. Every game puts alternate arts into their sets to chase after. The fact that Yu-Gi-Oh! Hasn't done this is crazy. So many Yu-Gi-Oh! Sets that are awful could be saved by having some awesome alternative art cards. Pricing. Players don't even care if you give away money, just give away promos for entry and rare promos and alt art cards for top cut or winning. Things players can actually use if they want to, or if not, can actually obtain some monetary value out of. Cards are cheap to make in the grand scheme of things compared to giving out cash. You get to just print 1 billion of them at a price cut. So he says, finally, nothing stung more than getting first place after Swiss at the 200th YCS over almost 3,000 other people, getting unlucky and losing in top 64, walking away with a playmat as my only prize that they didn't even give me for months because they didn't have them made yet. I literally walked away with 0 things in my hand that day. So, a lot to unpack here, but I thought it was just a really interesting tweet because I have seen other top players also sort of talking about the same thing, where it's like, well, first of all, what do you think before I go on about this?
I mean, the man's spitting, right? Like, number one, it's hard to argue with a multi-time Yu-Gi-Oh champion.
Yeah.
But more importantly, he's comparing Yu-Gi-Oh to these other card games. I feel a little bad because I've been a fly on the wall with Konami. I kind of already know how they feel about Yu-Gi-Oh's place versus all other card games. And
yeah,
Konami doesn't care what other card games do. They're like, yeah, they're them. We have Yu-Gi-Oh, and
I think
they have to match. They're still catching up to us. We don't have to play catch up with anybody else as far as they're concerned.
So I've got what I would call this a hot take, but I think that it's kind of become the norm these days, is that Yu-Gi-Oh has its place in the top 3 card games, and like the big 3 is a really, like, every genre, every collectible thing tends to have like a big 3 or like a Mount Rushmore or some equivalent, right? People argue about like what's in the Mount Rushmore of anime, or the who's the GOAT in basketball or whatever. So Yu-Gi-Oh is
trying to destroy our comment section. They will eat each other alive.
You guys can argue, it gives us a little bit more engagement. But so in the card game space, Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, it's the big 3. It's been the big 3 since effectively.
But who's going to be the Kendrick Lamar?
Yeah. So right now, I have thoughts on that actually, but like right now, Yu-Gi-Oh is a part of the big 3, and you would be so surprised how much leverage you get out of being in like so far ahead of your competition.
Yeah.
So I think that, Konami and 4Kids, they kind of were working in tandem, and Upper Deck and all that stuff in those early 2000s really cemented Yu-Gi-Oh as like this cultural phenomenon. It got a lot of people invested early on. And I think that, here's my hot take, they kind of just coast off it now.
Yeah.
They don't seem to be like fully into re-invoking that. They don't seem to be really like committed to like bringing in a lot of new people or trying to kind of have like a big campaign to grow it. It's just kind of more like, well, we have our place here and we're just going to sort of maintain it. We're just going to keep releasing packs as we've done, just sort of keep reprinting cards in the way that we've done, just do Banlist as we've done, and do prize support and events as we've done them. And for better or worse, we don't have to change that because people are showing up at these events still. They're still getting really high numbers at these
breaking
YCS
records
events.
Still.
Yeah, a lot of these events are getting high numbers, and you guys can complain all you want, but you're playing and you're. So now that isn't to say that excuses the kind of more dated approach to prize support, but just that I think right now Konami truly does not have. If I was Konami, I wouldn't see like any reason to make some big investment in this, rock the boat when people are already showing up. So I think like in that way, I wish that there could be more pressure put on Yu-Gi-Oh sometimes to like evolve, catch up with the times.
But how do you pressure a monolith?
Yeah, and the only way to pressure a monolith like that is to truly see some like, okay, people aren't coming to these events. Like if people actually boycotted events, I'm not saying like, I'm not sitting here like calling for people to do it. I don't
rally around my banner, guys. Yeah,
because here's the thing. I'm not in the target demographic of this prize support. I'm not top 64 at some YCS. I don't think I will be doing it anytime soon.
Oh.
I mean, maybe, but like, so whether or not you think that this prize support thing is a big deal is kind of up to the listener, every individual person. But I do think that for the people who like Yu-Gi-Oh and it scratches that itch, making your voice known in some way would be good. Maybe that means like, contacting Konami yourself. They have an email. Like, let them know like, hey, because God, I didn't really go on a tangent this early in the podcast. But like, so here's the thing, right? I think Jeff Jones is right that, and I've had conversations with people about this all the time. Yu-Gi-Oh seems like it is, abstractly speaking, probably the deepest of all the card games right now. Deepest. Has air quotes because like that you can define that in different ways. But a lot of people seem to agree that it offers something that other card games don't when you're playing at like, that top level. There's something cerebral. There's something that just feels satisfying for like these top level talents. The thing is though, a Jesse Cotton, a Joshua Schmidt, a Jeff Jones, and there are plenty of others, would technically be, their talents would be better placed in other games. And we've actually seen some people who started playing Lorcana and Pokemon and like topped events, regionals and other things, coming from being top players in Yu-Gi-Oh to being top players in those games, they just get more for doing it. So it's like if you're one of these talented Yu-Gi-Oh players, technically speaking, your time might be better spent in these other games where you can use the same talents and strategy and stuff that you've got, but get better prizing for it.
But Yu-Gi-Oh was your first love.
But that's the thing, like Yu-Gi-Oh's kind of curse of the first sort of thing. It's hard to get away from it.
Come crawling back to me.
Yeah, so I don't know. I was looking at the prize support for Pokemon recently, and they just give these people cash, which is wild. It seems wild, at least.
And I think the fact that Pokemon has done that for as long as they have now, and Konami has not changed the pricing structure, that just tells me that Konami doesn't care what Pokemon does. Konami doesn't care what Magic does. And they certainly don't care what Lorcana or any other like card game does. As far as Konami's concerned, they will start paying attention to those games when they start knocking on the door of the big three. But as good as Lorcana, One Piece, every other card game is, they're nowhere close to how big the big three are.
Yeah. So until like there's actual downward, or I guess in this case upward pressure, I just don't see much changing. But it'd be nice if it could.
Agreed.
So I also like his points about really just alt arts and sets. It's shocking that Yu-Gi-Oh hasn't adopted that, but it doesn't have much reason to.
It would be cool. I think everyone would appreciate that.
Yeah. So just thought it was kind of a neat thread to bring up. And then the last thing is that Master Duel does have a new ban list. This isn't.
You know what? It is a Friday, isn't it?
It's a new. Yeah, I mean, it's another month. Master Duel gets these ban lists every month. Before I get into it, actually, I do think that it's worth mentioning. Like, this is kind of why I don't worry too much about Master Duel ban lists, is because there's just always another one.
They happen so often.
So, like, whereas in the TCG, where you might be stuck with a format for 4 months at most, or 5, sometimes
quarter of a year.
5. In Master Duel, like if you don't feel like this one ban list did enough, well, just wait for the next one. It'll probably do a little more. And this one did do a little bit more. So, the one and only banned card is Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity.
Let's go.
A turn skip card,
Never a good time.
Yeah, no one really likes these turn skip cards. Master Duel surprisingly has done a better job of banning these turn skip things than actually the TCG has. Like, they have banned like the Gimmick Puppet guy, Giant whatever Nightmare, and also Hot Red King Calamity. So my assumption is this is probably because Centurion is going to be coming out pretty soon in Master Duel, and they are known for...
Well, y'all better play this archetype properly and lose.
Yeah, play it honestly, please. Also, they limited Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils and Snake Eye Ash, so you guys might remember that those cards were previously put to 2, And when we were talking about the ban list then,
Yep.
we kind of had the sentiment that like Snake Eye will be a deck that they just chip away at over the months.
Just a little bit at a time.
And so this is the next bit of chipping, and I think it's actually a pretty effective one.
It's funny, now they're ahead of the TCG at hitting Snake Eye.
Isn't that? What does that say? Wanted and Snake Eye Ash both to 1 is actually a bigger deal than I think people are fully aware of. I know a lot of people are saying like, well, they still have so many starter cards, and you're right, they still do have a lot of reliable starters. There's about a dozen different cards that can still start your Snake Eye combos. And when your Snake Eye combos work, they will still be the same Snake Eye combos. So nothing is...
Yeah, the end boards won't change.
Yeah, the ceiling is technically still as high. However, this lower consistency, to me at least, means that hand traps are more effective against them. Actually, hitting things with Ash and Imperm could potentially actually end turns now, as opposed to I actually already had this, you got baited. And this actually does affect their grind game a little bit, because one Snake Eye Ash actually means that Snake Eye Ash cannot search another copy of Snake Eye Ash. Within its effect, it's allowed to do that, but now if you're in a grindy situation, say Flamberg goes to the graveyard during the opponent's turn, and then you get a Snake Eye Ash from its effect, and then it searches an Ash to normal summon on your next turn, that well of advantage is now cut off. And the same thing applies to what is the spell card? Original Sinful Spoils Snake Eye, which has a graveyard effect where you add a level 1 fire and then you shuffle one in. So now you cannot, if you only have Snake Eye Ash in your grave, then you can't search another Ash and then shuffle the first one in.
You can search a Poplar.
Yeah, but that in and of itself is not as effective. It's one more line of play in an extended game that is kind of cut off from them. And
it also weakens their top decks in a grind game.
Yep.
Because everyone's been in a grind game with Snake Eyes. There's always that game where you manage to stop almost everything, and now you're both kind of top decking for resources.
Yeah.
Just missing those 4 cards in total now.
Yeah, that
makes a difference.
It makes a big difference. So I do think that this is going to be pretty effective. Now I know Fire Kings are supposed to be coming in Master Duel pretty soon,
Woo!
So they'll probably be combined with Snake Eye, and that'll be the way that it's played. But I appreciate the way that they're kind of approaching this. I know people would probably prefer that they just ban Poplar or something, but as we know, Master Duel does not really ban cards lightly, so they would much rather
Calamity.
Put stuff to 1 or 2, and they only ban in the extreme cases. So Sprite Jet went from 1 to 2. This is cool. Sprites, in my opinion, were one of the decks that got a little bit overhit.
They kind of just kept going after him and after him and after him.
So they're kind of beginning to bring it back. And then some cards that came to 3. Sky Striker Engage, Performapal Monkey Board, Ride of Aramesir, and Blackwing Steam the Cloak.
Pretty much all unproblematic cards.
Yeah, cards that they're either unproblematic or just they've kind of been crept, in terms of playability. So not a whole bunch to say about this list other than I think it's fine. This is also the list that we will be playing with for the Duelist Cup / Worlds qualifier thing.
So you are gonna do it?
Oh no, I won't. I don't, or I might. I might kind of try to do it. I'll have to carve out those 3 days to just not
grind
sleep,
out,
and maybe I'll be able to make it. So that's your new Master Duel ban list. Nothing huge, just it's cool. Not everybody seems to love it, but I think it's fine. So
I think we should start evaluating Master Duel ban lists in bunches. You should look at it in the terms of how much time it takes for us to get a TCG ban list.
That's true.
What all changes happened since the last TCG ban list to the next one, and then we say, well, how did Master Duel do this format?
I think actually that you're kind of onto something there. I mean, I think sometimes if you zoom out, Master Duel. What's the best way to put it? So I think when Master Duel came out, a lot of people viewed it from the same lens that they view the TCG.
Yep.
So kind of when a Master Duel ban list would happen, people would sort of look at it as how would I feel about this if this applied to if this was the TCG, the set of hits that they did. And so in that way, that's where you get a lot of people saying oh, Master Duel just doesn't do enough. And they're always just semi-limiting stuff and it doesn't make any difference. What's the point? I think that when you zoom out and you kind of look at the overarching trends, which are that we get frequent ban lists in this game, but that the ban lists themselves tend to be a little safer and a little more subtle, But like in the same length of time, like you said, that you'll get one TCG list, you've gotten like 3, sometimes even 4 Master Duel ones. And then when you kind of look at it that way, I think Master Duel does a slightly better job on average than maybe the TCG does at just micromanaging the format and kind of like, you know, playing around with power levels in such a way that it doesn't feel like any one list totally disrupts anything. But when you look back, it's like, yeah, they actually have done a pretty good job at like easing certain threats and strategies out of the game without killing them. Whereas in the TCG, because we only maybe get like 3 ban lists a year at this point, maybe 4, it's like the lists have to be kind of harsh.
They have to be big lists.
They have to be big, and like big can mean good, but also can mean like off-putting.
It also means that the average TCG list, if a TCG list is considered less impactful, it is a huge blow to the Yu-Gi-Oh community.
Yeah, because like, we're stuck with this for like at least 3 more months, and like they didn't hit anything, or
this list did nothing.
Yeah, so I think like in that way, I think Master Duel deserves some credit for just like
they'll kill you in the comments.
They are, yeah. I know people don't always like to kind of credit Master Duel's ban list approach, but I'm telling you, this is a mobile game, like effectively. Like Master Duel's just like one of these like live service games. If they were actually in here just banning cards every month, like banning cards,
people would be sick,
and like putting stuff to 1 like all the time, that there would be so, because like you spend gems and stuff on this, and like mobile gamers would be pissed if just like your gacha characters effectively are just getting like removed from the game.
Yep.
Every month, it's like, oh, you won these. Like, so you know, on the TCG end, I think it's just harder to compare the two.
Because like in the TCG, Konami can ban your cards, but Konami actually can't stop you from playing your cards just for the hell of it. In Master Duel, they could stop you from playing the cards.
Like, you just cannot play these cards in ranked and stuff. So it's very I don't know. I think that Master Duel ban lists over time have really started to show where the dev team is kind of at with them and what they kind of seek to do with these lists. But I would like to hear other people's thoughts on this. Like if
they're going to share them, all right.
If they feel that this approach is better, worse, different, what's up with it. So,
all right, guys, put in chat TCG versus Master Duel. Who you taking?
Yeah, I think if it was up to me, I mean, I like the way that Master Duel handles these lists. I think the only real problem if this was sort of like, if they transfer this over to the TCG, is just that like people seem to have a bigger issue with cards going to 2.
I think such frequent list adjustments in the TCG would be a pain.
That'd be a bit much because it'd be hard to like. There are times when I'm playing Master Duel and I just like forget like for instance, Rite of Aramesir has been at 2 in Master Duel basically since like release.
Yeah,
and now it's going to 3. And like sometimes I just don't remember, like, oh, it's in 3 in the TCG, and the same with like Engage and Monkey Board. Some of these cards that they're power creep, so you don't see them much, but you also just forget what's at what number. And if literally like the TCG was just getting lists each month with cards bouncing from 1 to 2 to 3 to 2 to 1 to 2 to 2 to 3, like that might be hard to follow.
It would just be a pain to deal with.
Even if it balanced the game maybe a little better, it would just be hard to like remember. Oh, was that like 2?
Yeah, it's like you'll sit across from the opponent, and you're using the last ban list. They're using a new ban list.
Yeah,
and like you have a card at 2 that could be at 3. They have a card at 3. It needs to be at 1. And it's like wait a minute.
Yeah, I think that'd get a little bit wild. So, cool. I think that's like really it though for Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
All right, so card game stories.
Yes.
Any big ones?
I have one.
Okay.
It's a Pokemon story.
Okay.
Or it's Pokemon and some. Y'all need to stop.
What have you seen?
They still this time they didn't steal Pokemon cards, but they still committing crimes. These cards.
Someone's done something over cards again.
Former bank robber accused of selling $2 million worth of fake Pokemon and sports cards. That title might be a little misleading. Let's see what it says. So it says, I suppose the saying, old habits die hard. It applies more than ever to this story in a truly baffling bit of news from Washington State. Washington State, that's where Worlds is going to be.
Okay. No one gets their card swiped.
A former bank robber and his partner in crime have been charged by federal agents for selling fake Pokemon and sports cards. The duo, consisting of Anthony Curcio and Iosif I can't say it, would take otherwise ordinary Pokemon cards, and fabricate the grading given to them so that they could sell them for higher prices.
Oh, so like they were faking like PSA grading,
yes,
or something like that.
So,
interesting.
A fairly concise breakdown by Fox News Seattle gives you all the information you'll need. But the gist of the story deals with PSA. Yep, that's Professional Sports Authenticator Grading System, and how Curcio and I can't say that guy's last name to save my life. They manipulated that to artificially inflate the value of their cards. They would duplicate the card stock used to signify the rating of cards and go around to different pawn shops to sell the cards. Apparently, they were also selling cards directly to personal collectors, racking up a total of around $2 million in the process.
Wow.
Where the duo made their biggest mistake was in the sale of a 1986 Fleer. Now, this is a basketball card, I believe. Fleer Michael Jordan rookie card. Sold at an auction in Manhattan for $171,000 with a PSA grade of 10, which is considered mint.
Yeah.
Well, a big sale like that, PSA caught wind of the sale and notified the auction house that they had never graded that specific card.
I just pulled up the story too. I see where they have a 1999 Venusaur and a 1999 Charizard.
Yeah.
You're going to probably mention those, I
Well,
guess.
that's not in the... I've read the story twice. I was going to bring that up as well.
Okay.
These guys have also... They've pulled the same thing with Pokemon cards. They would just make up grade 10s. The funny part is they would get legitimate copies of the cards. So they would have to invest some amount of money in, but then they just fake the grading of them.
That's interesting. So I guess they're making these fake kind of grading labels. I know from the research that we've done into the whole GameStop PSA thing, I was watching a video where somebody went to GameStop and tried to sell some cards. They're supposed to inspect the PSA slab, and there is actually a sort of if you shine a dark light on it or something, there's sort of a hidden bit of a thing. So that will only show up on authentic PSA labels. So I don't know if they were able to recreate that or if they just weren't doing it, but the people that they were selling to weren't privy and just weren't checking. Either way, it's terrible.
I think GameStop probably knows, because this story, while it got reported on May 29th, I think PSA has probably been aware of this story for a while, and whatever they're doing at GameStop will not fall for this scam.
Yeah.
So guys, don't try and scam GameStop. You'll probably end up in a lawsuit because these guys, they're going to jail again.
They were both charged with 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and 1 count of wire fraud. The pair each face a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison if convicted.
They're going to get convicted.
Yeah, that's crazy. Jesus.
They scammed a lot of people out of a lot of money.
I will say, this is one of those things where I kind of can see why people are just so apprehensive of the whole grading thing in general. Mm-hmm. Where it just almost feels like it's an avenue for scams to happen, because it's you've got this service that'll claim a card as a 10, and the idea of a card being a 9 or a 10 or whatever inflates its value a lot, but then it's a naturally kind of slippery process because it just depends who's grading your card, how they're feeling that day. I think this is a 9.5. I think this is a 9. And then also people can make these fake claims oh, this is a grade 10 thing, but I actually made a fake slab.
You have to have so much research done, because the problem is these guys they were scamming people who they only thought they knew what they were doing. They didn't know to check for these dark light marks. They don't know what a fake PSA graded card looks like versus a real PSA graded card, and that's not common knowledge. If somebody walks up to you offering a PSA grade 10 card, and the most you'll do is check what they're offering versus the online value, and it's either a good deal or a bad deal, you don't have the ability to check, well, is it real?
Yeah, you can't really authenticate it. It's kind of interesting too, because now there's 2 layers of authentication.
Yep.
It's is the card real? Is the grade real? You know what I mean? There's
That's
both.
That's true.
So.
And until now, I don't know if I would have thought to make sure it's a real PSA graded card. I would just want to know, is the card in the slab real?
Yeah, which is still its own valid concern, because these guys at least had real cards, but they just, or presumably real cards, but they just weren't the 10s that they claim they were. They were probably a 7, and the difference between a 7 and a 10 is huge. And then also you won't necessarily want to open the slab and validate it, because opening the slab destroy. It's like driving a car off the lot, effectively.
Yeah. So. It would have to be regraded at that point, even if it was a 10.
Money and
get it regraded. It comes out as a 9.5.
Yeah, it's like a whole thing. So that sucks. Woo. I mean, glad to hear they got caught, but it's just it makes it seem really scary if you're. That's the market you frequent online is the buy sell trade thing.
I know that these guys they got caught for the Michael Jordan card, but I mean, there's still another example of people going to jail behind these Pokemon cards. Like, yo, what is going on?
Maybe the next part of their plan was going to be to sell them to GameStop.
Woo!
Take advantage.
GameStop wouldn't fall for that. GameStop is so on the edge of staying in business, they will never be scammed. Well, they do the scamming.
I was just saying, they'll take the cards. They'll just literally offer you, we'll pay you $15 for these like grade 10 Charizards. Hope that's fair. Yeah. Okay. Well, I've got a fun. Actually, it's not fun at all. Card game story. Fan-made digital Lorcana client Pixelborn to shut down after Disney claim. So we don't typically talk a lot about Lorcana in this podcast just because we don't play it. So
organized playing Lorcana is strange.
Yeah, it's a little difficult. I know Chris told me about this story since he at least kind of follows Lorcana a little bit. So Pixelborn, a fan-made digital client for Lorcana, will be shutting down due to an alleged intellectual property rights infringement claim by Disney. Developer Pavel Kolev announced the closure, stating he would not grasp at technicalities regarding the shutdown of Pixelborn. And this closure is a massive loss for the Lorcana community as Pixelborn provided statistical information and was used for fan tournaments. So, this is effectively, for those who maybe don't know, this is sort of their dueling book or EDO Pro esque fan-made simulator that people use to, play tests, make deck profiles, content, run stuff. And it's been around for a bit, and apparently it was a big deal because when Lorcana cards were kind of not widely available, early on they had production availability issues.
That first set was difficult to get your hands on.
People would play this to at least be able to play the game.
Right.
But yeah, so it's a fan-made client that lets you play Lorcana with a digital interface. Like the likes of Magic the Gathering and Pokemon TCG Live. However, as it is a fan-run service, all the cards are free to use and technically have been modded into the game manually before, or they have to be modded into the game manually before they're playable. So they sort of posted about this in the Discord server, and like they said in the article, the guy's sort of planning on he's not gonna fight it. He's just gonna take the thing down. It really sucks though because a lot of people.
I imagine it's extremely popular. I don't know how many Lorcana Sims there are. I assume there aren't that many.
There might be something in Tabletop Simulator, but that's kind of separate. So
I'm surprised Tabletop Simulator has avoided lawsuits itself.
Yeah, I'm surprised it has too. I guess it's just because Tabletop Sim it's all fans' ability to just make something. So maybe it gets it out of some legal trouble. I wouldn't know. I don't know the specifics, but this sucks. It really sucks.
There's so much to say. I'm trying to think, where do we start with this? Because I'll start with this. Card game sims are the present and the future of card games, much to my chagrin, because I don't actually like playing card games digitally at all. Mm-hmm. But everyone else does.
It's the expectation. In 2024, you kind of need to have a way to play your game.
And because you can tell, people are making these sims because they want to play these card games digitally. They want to play these games as much as they can. You don't always have a local scene. You don't always have physical cards. You don't always have people to play with. But if you have a digital sim, none of those things are a problem.
Things are suddenly,
that's the biggest issue of card games is the tactile, the physical part of it, because it can be hard to do that. It's hard to get all those factors to come together. But digital sims, they kind of they wash away all that nonsense. But a lot of these card games, they struggle to actually get sims off the ground. Lorcana's newer, and many newer card games in it just can't just pop up with a sim immediately.
Yeah.
And fans are like, well, we'll help you out. We'll make a sim until you guys can make a sim.
It's, yeah. And that's only just... tip of the iceberg.
Yeah,
right?
There's so much to say.
Because I think it's the unfortunate thing to keep in mind with all of this is that Disney and Ravensburger are well within their rights to shut these things down, right?
It is legally copyright infringement.
Whenever they, like, this doesn't just apply to them. This is like, same with Yu-Gi-Oh, or if Magic wanted, they wanted to shut down a fan sim. There's the Digimon one that, you've been playing that, like DCGO. And even that seems like that might be, on the fritz.
Who knows how long?
But, like, these companies are within their right to shut these things down. You have to, protect your copyright or risk losing it. And to that end, I have a lot of respect for this guy for just sort of being like, listen, I'm not going to try to, like, fight the technicalities. Because people will, right? Like, whenever this news comes out, there's always going to be a lot of people who are really saddened by it. And they're like, oh, like, this is a big company and they're just pushing their weight around. But, like, technically you could get away with it if you just claim this, and the other. Or, like, if you take this thing down and you move this, well, then you're not technically using the assets. But that's all very easy to say from the sidelines, right? Like, the people who actually, like, work on this game, if they actually end up having to go to court, they'll go bankrupt, right? Like, a big company like Disney, you really think, like, you're going to get to, like, fight your, well, technicallys with Disney in court.
It's billions of dollars.
And, like, and I'm not saying that as, like, a supporter of Disney or big business. I'm not. I'm just saying
hasn't even seen The Lion King.
I have seen it. I don't remember it. But, like, so I understand, like, you can, like, sort of fight the technicalities on a message board on Reddit when you're, like, venting that the thing got shut down. But, like, are you going to actually provide these guys with the legal fees needed to go to court for years and years with Disney? You know what I mean? Like,
I can't do that, but boy, can I cheer from the sidelines.
Yeah.
You go, guy. So fight the power.
So in that way, I kind of have respect, or at least I understand his decision not to take that any further. I just wish that when things like this happened, that, like, Ravensburger and Disney were, like, offering an alternative.
Right.
Like, okay, hey, we're taking down Pixelborn, but, like, here's at least some news of the fact that, like, we are working on an official digital sim. Now, along with that comes the fact that, yes, it's going to be monetized. And yes, it's going to probably not, like, offer you all of your cards just, like, the snap of a finger. You're going to have to...
The best you can hope for is a Master Duel.
Yeah, that's the best you can hope for is Master Duel. At least, like, it's pretty free-to-play friendly, and the worst thing you got to do is maybe play. But, like...
The worst thing you have to do is play.
It's funny, isn't that crazy? But, like, there are a lot of people who, they just kind of want their cards, like, right off the bat. I should be able to build every last deck the moment I start up the game.
Right.
Because Dueling Book and EDO Pro give you that. So, like, why should Master Duel have me, like, spin the gacha or open these packs and pay these gems and, like, all that stuff? But, like, the harsh reality is, like, these companies gotta, it's a business model.
They gotta make money.
They gotta make some money.
They gotta make
a lot of it, playing and all that stuff. But anyway, to get back to the main point, I hate that this gets shut down while there are no plans in place for, like, Ravensburger or Disney or whatever to make, like, an official sim of the game. In fact, I read this on Reddit, and just take it with a grain of salt, don't know if it's true or not, that Ravensburger actually said from the start that they were not going to make a digital client because that extends beyond the limits of the license that they have, the license agreement that they have with Disney to even make the game. So, like, they're allowed to make a physical paper card game and distribute that, but making a digital version of it that would be like an additional sort of licensing agreement that they would have to reach, and they have different stipulations.
That makes a lot of sense with licensing of franchises and brands. Those licensing agreements are usually very, very specific and tight. Like, there was no way Disney was gonna give them the rights for any, like, digital representation of those characters. Why? Because they're a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, and they've already got video game licenses and everything else running around. And whatever Ravensburger had to do to get this deal done would have been infinitely harder if they're like, we also want to do a digital sim, because that's a whole other series of permissions.
There's a bunch of permissions and, like, legislation even around, like, digital games and how they work and how they're monetized. So it definitely, I mean, I just wish that there was one. Like, all this sucks, but I just do wish that there could be an official Lorcana sim. Because, like, without this, apparently I was doing some research, and, like, Pixelborn was a way for, like you said, people to get into the game, try out decks when products weren't available. There are people whose locals are, like, an hour plus away, and that's just not really, like, feasible to go to every weekend. And this was still, like, a way to play against people, play with friends or whatever online. There were tournaments. This was a big source of content, at least, like, kind of deck building and gameplay content. You could quickly visualize how a deck is supposed to play or how it's supposed to be built. And, that was a thing that's gone now. So sucks.
It's a shame because this could happen to any card game, really. Mm-hmm. The before we had Master Duel, we relied on what was it?
It was Dueling Book,
and then it became.
Well, first it was Dueling Network.
Dueling Network,
and that got shut down by like NAS, Neon Ad Systems, and then they made Dueling Book, which I still to this day don't even know how the hell Dueling Book.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we lose that one, but we keep Dueling Book. I don't get it.
I'm not gonna get into it.
But before we had Master Duel, there could have been a day where the wrath of God is struck down on our dueling sims, and we could have been without an EDO Pro, Wygo Pro, Dueling Book.
Yeah, all those things. I know people are hard on Konami about a lot of stuff, but you have to kind of at least appreciate that they turn a blind eye to these things. Because if they really wanted to, like them or just Shueisha or someone could just be like, yeah, we're taking down this EDO Pro shit and this Dueling Book shit, it's just going. And like what we're seeing here, you could sit here and try to like kind of fight the technicalities of, well, technically this, well, technically that. Yeah, we don't care. You're going to court and like it's going down. So the fact that Konami, isn't doing that and that they just kind of turn a blind eye to these and just sort of pretend they don't exist is
because like as far as Konami
nice, because they don't have to do that.
And I'm not going to presume too much, but I think that it's like, it's more trouble than it's worth to get these things shut down. But it's not that they can't do it; it is trouble to do it.
Than it's worth.
And I think like this, like the creator of, or at least the guy who runs the what was it called again? Pixelborn.
Yeah.
I think that he has to ask himself, how much trouble is this really worth? You have a life. This is not your job. This is not your career. This is a side project you're running, but. Are you going to potentially like change the entire course of your life to keep it running?
Yeah, because the thing is, like, this is Disney. You think they're playing around in court?
Oh no!
Like at least Konami, I feel like they
changed copyright laws.
Yeah, that's true. Like Disney lobbies to keep. Yeah, that's true. So I mean, they were lobbying to like keep Mickey Mouse and stuff in the out of the public domain for as long as they possibly could. And even still, like, it's not fully public domain. Like, there's still aspects of him that you can't,
They wouldn't even have to spend more money. They would just reallocate the lawyers they already have on this sort of thing to this project.
That's why I always want to reiterate to people that, like, I totally get being angry at Disney for the decision. Like, I hate that this is gone. But I just always want people to kind of remember, like, it is not this guy, Pavel Kolev. Like, it's not his responsibility to fight Disney in court, and he shouldn't feel like he has to. Mm-hmm. I agree with the decision to just kind of quietly take it down because they could ruin his life, and it's just not, sadly, it's just not worth it. Like, they'll run you ragged in court with legal, so the point is, this is gone. It doesn't seem like there's a new sim in sight, and what I now wonder is, like, what does this mean for Lorcana going forward? Because how many players, it might be more that this was a niche thing, and this, a minority of people played it. I don't know. But I wonder if the, loss of this just means that, like, Lorcana as a game has real life, like, ramifications, like less product sales or less people at locals or things like less growth.
I think the game itself will hurt. Now, at the physical level, it will. I think it'll still persist, but I do think someone else is going to rise up to make some type of a replacement.
Whew, I'm scared for them.
Like, because the thing is, that's kind of how these things work, right?
It'll have to be more underground.
There's always somebody who's going to be like, I don't care. I'm going to make one.
Yeah, listen, and I'm rooting for them. It's just like, man, Disney seems scary, I mean,
I wouldn't.
It couldn't be me. I hate to say it. It could not be me. That reminds me how you've been playing DCGO, and I know you'd made a video.
I did. I made the video.
That's the Digimon TCG sim. I saw they might be in some trouble too.
Well, okay. So, of course, Bandai and the powers that be do not. I don't know if they know about the DCGO simulator, but if they did, they would not like it. And they would probably send a cease and desist as soon as humanly possible if they knew about it. But that's between them and the people who run DCGO. I don't know
so
if
far nothing's come out.
Yeah, nothing. There's been no public information about there being an issue. I know there's a post on the Digimon card game website about third-party uses of their imagery and whatnot. DCGO certainly falls within that.
Yeah, I saw that. So I had pulled it up here. Warning about Digimon gaming websites and software without proper licenses.
And see, there are plenty, just like with the situation with Pixelborn, there have been enterprising Digimon players creating resources and tools and simulators to help players, stay up to date, stay organized, and playtest.
Yeah.
Now, they haven't taken the next step beyond that notice.
Yeah, nothing that we've seen.
And like with Pixelborn, I think if the next step ever came, a lot of websites would shut down. They wouldn't have much of a choice. But I think the main difference here is Lorcana, Pixelborn, all that deals with a Western IP, Western brand, where Disney's lawyers are very much here right now.
Yeah, in the case of Digimon, it might be a little bit
like
less.
It's Japanese, and if they're anything like Konami, they have to jump through a few more hoops to take legal action in these situations. And at least with Konami has found that it's not. They don't really seem to want to put in all that much work. But we don't know Bandai like that. Who knows what Bandai is
We don't know. Are they about it? Are they not?
And I don't want to find. Me personally, I don't want to find out.
Yeah, according to this, it just says, currently we've found some websites and applications that illegally duplicate and use the images from the Digimon card game for an online gaming site and software without a proper license. Bandai and Toei Animation have never given any license or permission to use such images. There are several intellectual property rights, such as copyrights and trademarks regarding Digimon, the Digimon card game, the Digimon series, and its characters, card designs, names, etc. These are protected by intellectual property law in Japan, the European Union, the United States, and other countries. In addition, intellectual rights protect all the text, images, sounds, and animations on our homepage. We're taking strict countermeasures against illegal actions which violate our and other related companies' intellectual property rights or that fall into the category of unfair competition. So they're definitely warning people not to maybe make your card game sim, so just be careful.
Yeah, they use all the right legalese in there to make it perfectly clear what rights they do have. But I think for most people who are, in the space of making these tools and websites, they're going to at least force some. You're gonna have to prove it to them.
Yeah, a lot of people are more
you're gonna do something.
Ask for forgiveness rather than permission sort of approach.
And power to them.
Yeah, good luck. I don't know. Good luck to everyone involved. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I don't see things like this going well, but hopefully you get a solution, kind of like what Yu-Gi-Oh's got, where the Sims just kind of quietly exist, and
at some point, Konami made a Master Duel. They made a Duel Links. They made a Master Duel. Pokemon has done multiple iterations of their Magic has Arena.
I really do think there's no excuse to not have one. I mean, I know it's expensive. That's the excuse. Is that there's R&D and kind of investment involved in making a Lorcana digital sim or a One Piece one or whatever. Because I know One Piece apparently has a fan sim as well. So.
Ooh, you snitching?
I mean, I guess you would know it exists if you play, but I know that, for Bandai and stuff, that there's costs associated with doing that, and maybe they're working on it and we don't know, but I hope that we can just exist in a world where either you have a legal option to play these games or maybe they just kind of let you play the less than legal versions and they just kind of pretend they don't exist.
Yeah, I hope we can all have the Yu-Gi-Oh experience. Lorcana can't.
Yeah, Lorcana currently, I don't think that they're.
I hope the rest of us can, though. I hope the rest of us can just have that, and we'll get our Master Duels. I hope everyone gets a Master Duel.
Well, that wraps the card game stories for the week, I think.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into what was, I guess, supposed to be the headliner thing of this week was the Sony State of Play May 2024.
State of Play. Super exciting, right, guys? Right?
Well, it certainly was supposed to be going into it. I know I found myself more interested in following this video game news. I don't know why. Maybe it's this podcast or maybe it's just, I have a lot of friends who kind of do the whole gaming stuff. So this happened.
Yep.
We're recording this on Friday. This happened Thursday evening. And Showed a few games. It was about 30 minutes long. Approximately 14 games were shown.
I thought it was going to be longer than that, honestly.
So how do you want to do this? You think maybe we just take these one by one?
Let's go. Let's start from the top, work our way down.
We don't have strong thoughts on every single game, I assume, but like...
I can have strong thoughts about anything.
Okay. Well, we got to start then with what was actually the most controversial and hated game of them all. Firewalk Studios shares a release date and first gameplay trailer for Concord. Concord, it's their new upcoming 5v5 multiplayer shooter. The new trailer showed a pre-rendered cutscene showcasing a ragtag group of guns for hire. After the extended cutscene, they provided a first and detailed look at Concord's gameplay. It shows glimpses of the various characters you can play, each with weapons and play styles catering to different players. It's going to be released on PC and PS5 on August 23rd, but there's going to be a beta in July. All right. What do we think? I know you have played some of these team shooters like Overwatch, so I know you have some thoughts.
Yeah, before we even get into that, I want to talk about it in chronological order.
Okay.
So the trailer starts, right?
Yeah.
It's a well animated trailer with these interesting characters with their different personalities and you know you're kind of getting into their little story they're telling. Yeah, it's engaging.
Dynamic. Reminded me a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy. What was it? I forgot.
Sort of Suicide Squad vibes.
Yeah, it had those vibes. So I was bought in a little bit. I think we were all thinking the same thing during this trailer. It's like, okay, so like, what is this game? You're showing us, CG.
Yeah.
But we can't tell what the game is. So the whole time, I remember we're watching the trailer, we're spitballing. It's a battle royale. We're saying all the worst things it could be.
Yeah.
But the whole time I'm holding in this hope. I'm like, please be like a Mass Effect. Just don't be a shooter. But as the trailer goes on, it shows these very diverse characters that all have like their one unique weapon, and the dread is setting in.
Slowly kind of becomes clear that...
And then it's like, yep, Concord's a 5v5 tactical shooter. Oh, no.
Yeah, it's like a multiplayer shooter.
Why are we making another hero shooter?
An Overwatch clone in a world where a lot of them are coming out and a lot of people seem to kind of really and truly be getting a little worn of the whole genre, but at least specifically Overwatch. I know it's not.
Okay, so hero shooters, it's not that they don't work. They can work. We've seen it happen time and time again. What they were going for, at least from what I could tell, they were trying to do Overwatch better.
Yeah.
And the problem I have with that is the Overwatch hero shooter style kind of already doesn't work because, in my opinion, you create this story of an interesting cast of characters. Most of them are allies in the story, but we're gonna have our gameplay is we're gonna have them all shooting at each other. So I've always had this issue. What's the point of having a story if the gameplay has nothing to do with it?
Yeah, that's a big thing. That kind of was Overwatch's, wheelhouse for a while, was like being a first hero-based multiplayer game. Not the first, but the first major hero-based multiplayer game where the characters had, individual backstories and kind of relationships and stuff like that. And the story and the lore was just as much of like a draw as the combat itself. I remember like whenever there was a new character trailer for Overwatch, that was considered a pretty big deal.
And we wanted the lore. They didn't deliver, but we wanted it.
I think that I might have mentioned this before, and I'm going to bring it back to Concord in a second, but I always thought that Overwatch should have done the Arcane route. Like why they never do like a Netflix show.
Blizzard.
Yeah, I guess like Blizzard didn't deem that necessary. I just think that would have been, a cyberpunk edge runner, like just something like that.
Like, I don't want to talk too much about Overwatch. I'll just say that their story is just missed opportunity, missed opportunity, missed opportunity.
Yeah, so anywho, getting back to Concord, people hated this trailer.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw, actually, the like to dislike ratio on YouTube. Yeah, people were like looking at the like to dislike ratio on YouTube. Horrific. Like, and obviously, there's sort of a degree of like dogpiling where once people see that it's cool to hate it, then they just kind of, let me hop in with my extra dislike, even though I don't know about this game or care, but it's like a 12% like.
Because the thing is, if Concord, that trailer had stopped early and we just and we never found out what kind of game it was.
It'd be interesting if nothing else.
We wouldn't hate it quite as much because what you see in like the cinematic part of the trailer before we see any gameplay, it's at least interesting. But then that it stops the moment it finally gets confirmed to be just another like hero shooter. It all goes out the window. I get mad when I think about Concord because I'm mad they spent money on that trailer. I'm mad that they invested in voice acting and someone to write a story for this end result.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting about this is I guess like Sony's sort of, it's Firewalk Studios, but I assume that they're owned by like don't I don't know about that.
Sony's probably just doing the publishing.
Yeah, maybe Sony's like publishing this or whatever. It kind of reminds me of when like Square Enix did like the Foam Stars thing, and Sony, that was like a Sony exclusive, and that just looked like a Splatoon copy. I've heard pretty mixed things about that. It hasn't done super well. This just, we're gonna get probably into it a little bit more with like Marvel Strike Force, which there's less to say about that because it's already been announced.
Rivals,
so Marvel
Strike Force is
a different game,
but also I think by NetEase.
Okay, the other Marvel game. I really think like people kind of seem like they are starting to actually get worn down with, and this is broader than just the Concord thing. Mm-hmm. People are getting worn down with all these buzzwords: team, hero, 5v5, arena, live service, shooter, battle pass, season pass, like online.
That's the era of gaming we're in, and boy, are we sick of it.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit rough. We'll just skip to Marvel Rivals just since it's related.
So
all the announcement really was here was they showed a few new characters and they announced that there's going to be a PS5 beta.
Yeah, I think July. For people who've been paying attention, there was also kind of this soft confirmation of more skins. Mm-hmm. Hey, we knew what we saw in the alpha, and we know what we've seen up to now. During the trailer, all these splash screens of alternative takes on the heroes. So that's what I noticed because I watched a lot of alpha gameplay, and so I had noticed Venom was the obvious thing, but I was like, oh, look at all these like unique designs on these characters. I'm looking forward to this, but. Can I just draw attention to the fact that it was weird that they had two hero shooters in the same showcase?
Yeah, I thought that. I'm surprised they would do that. I mean, I guess it's also funny because both of their betas are the same month. Yeah, like Marvel Strike Force is doing a PS5 exclusive beta in July, and then so is like Concord. So I feel like it's just a little bit.
It's strange because I mean Sony can't be blind, right? They do know one of these games has to fail, right?
What's funny about this too is that like, this wouldn't have been a problem if they aren't both the same. Like them being the same genre isn't inherently a bad thing. It's just the fact that like literally in this world of live service games, there's only one of you. You only have 24 hours in the day. Like you can't really actively play like multiple games of such an identical genre. Mm-hmm. Like technically, someone could, but it's just like if you're playing Concord, you're not playing Marvel Rivals, and vice versa. Like it's just. You're probably not playing.
Let's not forget about the things already in the space they're competing with.
Yeah, in addition to Overwatch and everything else. So it's kind of like I'm shocked that they're just in the same showcase.
Cause it's just weird. It's like, it's like one of these games kind of has to fail. I mean, and that's not even to say that both will. I mean, that one of them will be successful. It's just they're entering.
One certainly can't.
Yeah, one of them will have to fail, and it's like y'all put a lot of money in that Concord trailer. I kind of feel bad.
That's what makes me feel bad about it, because here's my hot take on like Marvel Rivals. No offense to them. I don't know that much about NetEase. I've heard like mixed things about their history with mobile games, but apparently like it's, they have other successful mobile games and maybe not as successful ones. And some people are critical of their monetization practices in some of their mobile games.
Yeah, I spent some money.
But you've played some other NetEase games.
How could I? How could I not? I'm a Marvel fan that plays mobile games.
Yeah, because they've done like at least maybe one other Marvel.
They've done more than one.
Multiple. Interesting. Well, so I think Marvel is gonna. Obviously, people seem to hate Concord, so I think it's kind of probably gonna be DOA. But I think with the Marvel one, it gets a lot of initial appeal just because like it's Marvel characters and it's an IP that you know and you're like. However, I never thought I'd find myself like complimenting Overwatch so much. I feel like Marvel Rivals looks very generic to me. There's something about it. I don't know. I can't put my finger on what it is. I don't know if it's maybe just the way they showcase the gameplay. I actually feel like Overwatch looks like visually cleaner and like better polished, but I can't really like wrap
I do think Overwatch looks better, but our criticism of Overwatch was never the looks.
Yeah, that's true.
It stands above virtually any other hero shooter in terms of looks.
Yeah.
We only have the alpha of Rivals, but my assumption is Rivals won't look much better in its final product than it does now. I mean, NetEase, they've never made a like proper console game before, sort of. So I never expected it to look as good as Overwatch. And from what we've seen in the alpha, a lot of what they did was copy Overwatch's homework in the environments you play. I know they're destructible, but come on, they look like Overwatch environments. Yeah. Like sometimes it felt like the character models themselves didn't even belong in the environments they were playing in. Like there's gonna be some awkwardness there. It doesn't look as good as Overwatch, but
that's not like it's not as important of success.
The most important thing with a hero shooter is that gameplay, how strategically depth. How deep is strategic? Wow.
No, I get what. Trust me, I know words. And then the second thing is,
safely.
What are the? Well, I mean, it's all of that, and then like also what are the monetization practices?
Yeah, that's
because like at the end of the day, that feels like a lot of companies, man. That's the only like real reason a lot of companies seem to like make games nowadays is like truly how do we monetize these people's time and attention. Like
so many games, it just boils down to the microtransactions.
Like, how much are the skins going to cost? Because it's Marvel. Like, all these Marvel characters have a billion different things they've worn in a different comic or whatever. And
these comics have existed for,
like,
decades.
Are the skins $5? Are they $25? Like, how, so.
Because, like, that was a huge sticking point with Overwatch and their skins. Because they switched off the loot box model, we finally got a taste of how much modern day Blizzard values your average Overwatch skin, and we were horrified at the price.
Yeah,
and it's like NetEase, given their history, I don't think they'll value their skins quite as high as Blizzard did. But this is also their first like non-mobile game, so who knows?
Yeah, who knows what Disney wants.
It's like, and sadly,
how much money Disney wants out of this.
I can never trust a mobile game developer with microtransactions. They're always predatory.
Yeah, it's always with like mobile games, it's pretty low to the ground in terms of the tactics and stuff.
They'll do what they got to do, and as someone who's lost many a dollar in a mobile game, it'll work. It'll work.
A lot of people, Alex, like on me, Alex will buy. Okay, well, listen.
But I will say I will play Marvel Rivals, Concord, R.I.P. But I'll play. I'm gonna play Rivals.
I'm giving Rivals a crack. No, good. I mean, I hope for the. I'm gonna say this. I know I say this a lot on here, but I don't want Concord to fail. I know it's like hard for people to kind of like put yourself in the headspace of these devs worked hard on this. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to undermine the fact that they worked hard on this. I'm sure there are corporate suits who were just like, we're just greenlighting this in the hopes that it'll catch on and get some money and we can have like an Overwatch competitor. But I think that I saw a lot of passion in that CG trailer.
Right.
And I know that we've seen a lot of gaming CG trailers that are just post-apocalyptic, everything's blue and muddy and gray, and like it's just generic guy in plug suit walking through apocalyptic wasteland.
Hey,
and that's like all you get.
That's what we got at Helldivers. Look what that turned into.
But like, yeah, and so I don't know. I saw this trailer and I saw like a lot of good things that I really wish could have just been turned into their own different game. So,
I will say this as someone who faithfully followed Overwatch for a long time, I'm out of empathy and sympathy. I hope Concord fails.
Ouch.
I feel horrible for the developers and the talents that worked on that project. I really do. I hope Concord fails.
That's fair. I fear it will.
Because I need the point to be driven home to these corporate suits that we don't need any more of these games. And if you are going to make one, you better be damn sure it's the best one we've ever seen.
It's funny, I saw they announced like a Star Wars one, but it's like apparently only on mobile.
Yeah, I saw the mobile
Star Wars like Heroes or something like that.
The
Hunters.
It looks alright, I guess. I'm sick of them.
Okay, so the next game is Dynasty Warriors Origins, coming out next year. Omega Force's hack and slash video game series. Dynasty Warriors is back. So we saw, it revealed that Origins will depict the chaos of the Three Kingdoms for the first time in the Dynasty Warriors franchise. Players taking control of a nameless hero. It's going to leverage the PS5 technology to create an all-new Warriors-like battlefield that will provide massive armies as far as the eye can see. What do you think about this?
Of course, I remember my first Dynasty Warriors title on the PSP. It wasn't, you didn't see Warriors as far as the eye could see. You saw them as far as your PSP could render.
Yeah.
Like, as they start popping in.
So now I guess the idea is that they'll be able to use this technology to have these huge battlefields
fill it up with just
people
NPCs.
that die in one hit.
Like, well, that was always the annoying part about, like, Warrior-style games, is that, it's like, when there are a lot of brainless fun when the enemies go down in one hit, but as the difficulty ramps up, is that all the enemies just turn into like certain percentage of like damage sponges, and so you would just be mashing away for what could feel like forever.
I feel like those games, that genre, because I'm not like, the hack and slash genre is not really like my genre, that warrior style hack and slash, but a lot of people, that's what they're there for. Like I signed up for kind of just this, dare I say, mindless, not in a bad way, but just power fantasy just game.
The motivation between Warriors players and non-Warriors players, it's fundamentally different from other games. Mm-hmm. You might look at a like Elden Ring style game, or what's a recent one, Stellar Blade. The action-oriented gameplay is the focus. So you don't want that to be kind of brainless. People who enjoy Warriors games, it's not really about the combat itself. It's actually the feeling of being powerful.
Yeah, it's like
and
a power
the
fantasy
heroes
thing
that you're using. Because I've actually played quite a few. There's way more Warriors games than I've ever played. But I played the Warriors Orochi series, which was a crossover between Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors. Essentially, one's Chinese, one is Japanese, and I played 3 of those games. If there were more, I'm sorry, I only played 3. But I've played at least.
I'm apologizing. I'm sorry.
There's a lot. I've played 3 Dynasty Warriors titles. I've played 2 Samurai Warriors titles, and I played the Gundam Musou series, which is a Warrior-style Gundam game. And what I found from playing at that many of them, it's really about just enjoying that character being the most powerful, dangerous bastard on the planet.
I played a little bit of Hyrule Warriors, like I mean a little, like a demo maybe. I did not play much, and I was like, yeah, this is cool. I see the appeal. And I mean, Zelda characters worked really well for it. You're Link, and you're just kind of just literally tearing through the place. So.
The only Warrior style game I haven't played that I really wanted to play was the Dragon Quest style one.
Oh, I didn't know there was one.
Yeah, there is one. What's it called? I don't know, but I do want to play that one. I kind of like that those goofy monsters all dying to my swords.
Well, this looks good then. I mean, I think like this is like just one of those games where it's safe. You kind of already if this is your game or not. If you're into Dynasty Warriors, this is like an easy cop.
The downside is that makes it's a niche, right?
Yeah, it's a niche thing.
Like I'm not talking down on Dynasty Warriors, but it is a niche for some of us. It's a must buy. It's a lock in. But for most people, they're like, I don't like. If I want to start, do I have to play the other Dynasty Warrior games? You always hear that with Final Fantasy. It's like, how many of them are there? There's a lot. There's actually been a reboot in that series. There's a lot of them.
Speaking of Final Fantasy, upcoming open world RPG Infinity Nikki is getting a beta test sometime in Q3.
Oh yeah,
this is this vibrant open world RPG with actually former Zelda director Kentaro Tominaga attached to the project in some way. Got a trailer. It's an open world dress up adventure. So you'll see the titular character, I guess her name is Nikki or something.
I'd be surprised if it's not.
Arrive on the continent of Miraland. Along with her friend Momo, she will travel to various nations, each with a different history and culture to explore. She will encounter a ton of adorable creatures. There was no firm release date, but it will get a beta test in Q3. So just kind of initial impressions of this.
Like, it feels like a first of its kind of game. It might not be, but for me, it feels like it is.
When I was watching, I couldn't tell what genre it was. Like, at first, I was like, oh, is it a platformer? And then, like, it kind of looked like an RPG. So they describe it here as a vibrant open world RPG. but also that the dress up component is a big part of it. And I saw from the trailer there was like a snapshot mode.
Yeah, lots of you take a lot of pictures. She has lots of costumes, it seems, and it's just as much about the adventure itself and the story as it is about just finding cute moments
and taking pictures of her with like the cute creatures. It's again very niche. It's not. I mean, I'm not going to be playing this, but I totally think that there's like a person that this is like for.
I have a theory about this game.
Okay.
I think we're putting it in a niche because of its obvious kind of like cutesy,
the moe-ish appeal.
Those sensibilities and styles. But I have this feeling that this is actually a game that way more people could enjoy if they could get past that.
You're right.
I'll be clear, I can't get past it. So I'm actually the type of person I'm talking about. But I just have a feeling that more people would enjoy it if they were willing to give it a try.
Next game is Where Winds Meet. So
which one was that?
It's Everstone Studios' martial arts adventure game.
Oh yeah, the Chinese looking one.
Yeah, set in the Ten Kingdoms era, it has players taking the role of a swordsman who will play a critical role in influencing the outcome of the conflict. Your decisions are key in how events will unfold. So this is kind of only briefly shown. If I remember, or I guess maybe I wasn't paying a lot of attention to it.
It had a very
like it was big on the combat.
Yeah, I got strong like Sekiro, Elden Ring, those kinds of vibes.
Okay, now there's there's one other thing I was going to say about it, which was just that I thought it was Ghost of Tsushima, but that's probably because I don't know.
I mean, Ghost of Tsushima,
I don't know anything about it.
More Japanese.
Yeah, see, I'm trash at like identifying any of this.
My major thought about that game was look at all the sheer amount of games with like Chinese themes that have made it into like gaming nowadays. At one point, it felt like you never really saw too many Chinese references in games, and now we're getting entire games.
The entire inspiration is like a period of Chinese history.
Like it's like I feel like that's a major change from the past. I think it's really cool. You just didn't see it back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's another one of these games. Probably not like directly for me, but a martial arts adventure game. That sounds kind of.
Because lots of really kung fu. Fighting. If I had to compare it to things, I kind of mentioned them already, but Sekiro, Elden Ring I think it's going to be one of those extremely skill-based games. If you don't have the reaction time for it, you probably going to have a really bad time.
There's also Ballad of Onterra, a high-fidelity, free-to-play action RPG releasing next year. So it's a dark fantasy RPG. It's going to release sometime next year. It's a brand new IP developed by Tipworks Studio. It's going to strive to achieve the highest fidelity, whatever that means. For this new IP, we set out to create a vast world, both in geological scale and cultural variation. In the normal version of this world, common folk reside. Common folk reside in the normal version of this world, and then.
Question: Do you have a picture?
Yeah.
I'm trying to jog my memory. I don't remember this.
It's hold up.
Is that wait?
Let me see if I can like make this video play.
Why don't I remember Ballad of Onterra? Huh? Oh,
okay, that's an ad. Okay, can I just say, I'm sorry, but like unskippable 15-second ads piss me off.
Pure pain.
This comes from me, a YouTuber. Please click our ad, sure, whatever. But like, okay, we're gonna have to skip this ad.
So
okay, here we go.
I'm just trying to remember which one was Ballad of Onterra or Ontan.
Yeah, I feel like this one came and went.
Stars. Like I watched this thing, didn't I?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Now I remember this one. Okay.
Tipsworks.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So you remember this?
Yes. Okay. All right. I'm good.
Cool.
Yeah. It feels like they're trying to recreate Elden Ring.
Not a lot to say on it from me. I don't have like a super strong opinion. I barely remembered seeing that trailer. So
you saw how much I struggled. It to me, it just really felt like Elden Ring again. Like they had Game of the Year, now we want it.
The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners developer announces a new VR game. This is Behemoth.
So I know a lot of people, they don't have too much experience with VR games. My very first thought when I saw it was, it feels like the what Meta has been pushing as their what's it called, Wrath of Asgard series.
Yeah, Asgard's Wrath.
Asgard's Wrath. They kept claiming, this is the best VR game of all time. All these amazing reviews. This felt like a better version of that.
Yeah, there's also another VR game that was shown, Alien Rogue Incursion.
Which is weird. I think there's supposed to be an Alien movie coming out, because that trailer reminded me of the trailer of that movie.
Yeah, it's an upcoming horror game. It's a single-player action horror game with an all-new storyline. You'll control a yet-to-be-named protagonist who explores a facility overrun by xenomorphs on the inhospitable planet Perdon. This sounds like something that's perfect for VR.
Yeah, y'all have to tell me what that's like.
Yeah, I mean, I barely remember this trailer.
I just don't like horror games.
Passed me by. Until Dawn, speaking of horror games, got a new trailer.
Y'all gonna let me know what that's like too.
I think horror games, they'll always be around because now they're kind of getting like a refresh in terms of being a good streamer game.
Yeah, and in this day and age, being a good game for streamers is enough to make it.
Yeah. Path of Exile 2 is getting early access. That's the game that's kind of like, it reminds you of like Diablo 3, like the overhead roguelike
style games. Yeah. I think I remember when Path of Exile 1 came out. I think that was when we went to PAX South.
Okay. Oh yeah, that does sound right.
I do remember a big old Path of Exile booth there.
Yeah, like maybe 2018-ish.
And I've heard that name so many times since. I know it has a strong audience online.
Silent Hill 2 remake finally got a release date. It's going to be October 8th. Any thoughts on Silent Hill 2 remake? I don't really...
And you said Konami can't make video games anymore.
I didn't say that. Some people do. Yeah, so, Konami revealed that. I've never played Silent Hill, actually, so I can't...
I stay away from, horror games. So, I mean, I'm glad for people who've been...
still considered a horror game? I thought people... Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Resident Evil, where they always talk about how like it's less of a horror game these days.
I mean, Resident Evil is more of an action game nowadays.
Survival
but
kind of thing.
I stay away from those too because I don't like jump scares. But
yeah,
Silent Hill, there's been so many people asking for a Silent Hill sequel. I think there was a remake not long ago of the original Silent Hill game. And there have been rumors and leaks about Silent Hill this, Silent Hill that. I'm glad you guys got it. Y'all have to let me know how that goes.
Okay, Monster Hunter Wilds.
Okay, now that's one I can talk about.
It was announced actually at the 2023 Game Awards, but they showed off a new trailer, providing another look at this gorgeous project and confirming some new monsters.
Gorgeous is right.
Yeah, Monster Hunter's cool. I think it's actually one of those underrated franchises. Like the people who love Monster Hunter love it, and I feel like it actually doesn't get enough mainstream attention. Like I always feel like I hear someone say they love Monster Hunter, but then it won't like be in the conversation for like game of the year or something, but I still think it's really good.
I think Monster Hunter has been around for so long. I think a lot of people have actually tried Monster Hunter. I think its name does carry enough weight for people to try it.
Yeah.
But in the past, it's gotten better with more of their modern games. Monster Hunter combat is slow, or at least was slow.
Okay.
Because Monster Hunter has this whole weight mechanic, and all the weapons are gigantic and they're bulky, and like there was a huge like timing factor in Monster Hunter where like you see this giant monster, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna cut you up. You swing your sword. Now your character's like, all right, wait.
Yeah, but there's a lot of
give
lag.
Me a sec.
Yeah.
And now you're ready to swing again. The monster's moved like 4 times since then. And
yeah, that seems stressful to play. Like I think the realism of the weightiness of your weapon and stuff is great. I feel like if you're actually fighting a giant monster.
And there's a stamina system. You can't just infinitely run in Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
Like when your stamina runs out, your character would just stumble. Like, it's like, hey, there's a raptor right there. I'm going to need you to pick it up.
Yeah, see, that's
so movement in Monster Hunter games historically was bad, but with this game they've been showing off a lot of mounted combat. I've played the last 3 games now, never finished them. I never finished Monster Hunter games. That's not a critique of the game. I just don't finish Monster Hunter games. But they had a lot of mounted combat. They really want you to be able to move around a lot more. I remember when we got the Insect Glaive weapon that kind of lets you jump around the battlefield, basically gliding around as you attacked enemies. You were able to mount the monsters themselves. Monster Hunter is not like how it used to be, and I'm really glad to see a Monster Hunter game that, I don't know if it's being developed for Switch or not, but it didn't look like it was. It was nice to see a good-looking Monster Hunter
next
game.
Gen tech so you're gonna be giving this one a try.
Oh, for sure. I'm gonna play it for at least like a week and a half.
I got you just know like off the gate that's like how long.
The thing is, Monster Hunter games, for me, they're great for starting off. I enjoy the combat and whatnot. Then the hunts get harder and they get longer, and
that's kind of when you fall off.
That's usually when I fall off. It's not. I don't hate the games. I just don't have the patience.
Alex loves them.
He does, and that's usually how I end up playing them.
All right, final game is Astrobot. Actually, ended up being the most popular game, arguably, of the entire presentation. The rumors are true. Team Asobi is working on a new Astrobot game, and we don't have to wait too long for it, as they unveiled that it's going to be coming out on September 6th. Titled Astrobot, this new project debuted an adorable gameplay trailer and explained in a PS blog post that players will explore over 80 levels spanning 6 galaxies as they look for Astro's missing crew. The trailer showed forests, sandy beaches, and volcanoes as Astrobot ventured across various levels. Much like 2020's Astro's Playroom, this next project will include catchy music and references to robots that look familiar to several characters from existing PlayStation franchises. Yeah, like God of War and Parappa the Rapper I saw in there.
Parappa.
So they say that it's the most ambitious game yet. And I'm not going to lie, this game actually looked really fun. It had that like kind of Ratchet and Clank, Mario-esque like platformer, colorful, vibrant.
It's really hard to critique the reveal of this game. I mean, we got a full trailer with gameplay.
Rare in this day and
age. It looked good. It looked vibrant. It was colorful. The music was nice. Like
platforming physics looked really like it's tight and responsive.
Like the most you can really say negatively about this game is, well, I don't really like those kind of games.
Yeah, and like I think everybody at least tried out Astro's Playroom because it was like the PS5 kind of tech demo game. Sounds like you didn't, but many people at least tried it, and I've heard like good things. It's just that it's an extremely short, glorified like tech demo game. So it sounds like now they're actually going to be doing like a full on.
Yeah, it's a full game.
Full game, and it kind of feels like to me the Astrobot or whatever that's the character's name is. I
think it's just Astro.
Or Astro is kind of their new cute mascot.
Gotta have one.
He kind of used to be Sackboy, but they just left him and.
What happened to Little Big Planet?
Yeah, Little Big Planet doesn't really seem to. But yeah, so now it's Astro, and it's cute because like you get these little references to other PlayStation characters and these different worlds, and so it's kind of fun. It's certainly a game I would play. That's for sure. And it got the best appeal of like the best reception of everything shown at Sony's. Yeah.
I did like some of the games in the showcase, but I think that one was the winner.
It seemed like the winner, and like it's safe and good. Like it looks like it's just going to be I can feel confident that this will be like a fun game I can just play, and it's not going to like bombard me with too much bullshit. Like there's not presumably there's not like a battle pass and
It's live service, y'all.
Live service battle royale. So that's the games at the Sony State of Play. Overarching thoughts.
It feels mean to say, but it feels like once again I'm underwhelmed. I did like a few titles here, but the showcase was only 30 minutes long. There were lots of niche titles that I might have personally liked, but I know the vast majority of people were like, "What even is this?" There wasn't a hook. If Astro is supposed to be like the hook of the showcase, that's not good.
Yeah, the bar's a little low. Yeah, I was reading people's responses online, and it just,
they really shouldn't have started off with Concord.
I feel bad because like Concord's clearly like the thing was supposed to get everyone excited, like the thing they spent a lot of money on. It's the high budget game for this. Just not the genre. I really think that this State of Play could have probably just waited. Like, just wait a little while. Because really, Sony does not have any huge first-party games this year. They've said that from the outset. Like, 2024 is not going to have, like, major first-party releases, so don't expect them. I guess they felt like they had to do something. There are games in here that are for specific people, as there's almost always going to be. It's just that it feels like their big killer app wasn't what it set out to be. So
yeah, and then starting off with it, I think that also that put us in a bad mood, you know?
Yeah, it kind of gets you just jaded and cynical about the rest of it.
It's like, oh, this whole thing's gonna be garbage. This is our big. This is how we're gonna start. Okay.
I know this is gonna sound really old head of me, but can I just say I'm kind of actually I miss kind of boomer. I miss E3. Not like I don't think that it really changes anything about whether or not these were underwhelming or overwhelming like announcements, but just the fact that like every kind of game company has its separate little mini showcase thing, and they're just like randomly sprinkled or like at random times throughout the year. Like next week is going to be there's the Xbox One, and then summer games.
There's a Nintendo thing coming up too.
Yeah, there's an Xbox showcase, Summer Games Fest, and then like a Nintendo Direct. So we're gonna have a lot to reflect on. But I don't know. I mean, I kind of liked when it was just like, oh, it's E3 and everyone's just here, and I don't know that it changes any of it. It's just what I guess I'm really actually lamenting is how like games these days feel like they're everything. It's like it's live service or it's remake. Right. Live service, remake. Live service, remake. And the moment that you get something that kind of starts to look interesting, you get slapped with some live service component. Like Concord looks cool, then suddenly all the gaming buzzwords pop up, and it's like, oh, okay.
But console war time. So PlayStation up?
I don't think so. The only reason PlayStation's up, if it even is because Xbox has had so much bad press in the last month that it's hard to like, you know, like this is kind of another case of like Sony wins by doing nothing. Like there's nothing exciting in this showcase. It's just that
Microsoft aside, is Sony and PlayStation better than it was 2 days ago or worse after the showcase?
I think it's probably worse. At best, they're the same. At worst, they're worse. Like I don't think that anybody.
I'm gonna get you an Xbox hat. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, we find the Microsoft, the Microsoft cap. Yeah, so cool. You ready to do some pot?
Yeah. Wait, what?
Well, do you have any other stories? If you did, we can.
Oh, I did have this. So George R.R. Martin has a blog. It's called Not a Blog.
Okay. I bet I've heard this.
To be clear, George R.R. Martin is the author of Game of Thrones. Okay, just wanted to be clear.
Yeah.
Just wanted to be clear. So, because he had a critique after watching the FX series Shogun, which is a critically praised adaptation of a very old novel.
Yeah.
But he really enjoyed Shogun. But, you know, in true, like, you know, you know how we are. We can't say anything good about a work without criticism of others.
Yeah, that's the name of the game of the internet in 2024.
Everywhere you look, there are more screenwriters and producers eager to take great stories and make them their own. It does not seem to matter whether the source material was written by Stan Lee, Charles Dickens, Ian Fleming, Roald Dahl, Ursula K. Lee, Ewan, J.R. Tolkien, Mark Twain, Raymond Chandler, Jane Austen, or, well, anyone. No matter how major a writer it is, no matter how great the book, there always seems to be someone on hand who thinks they can do better.
Yeah, so he said this in response to watching Shogun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I saw this headline too. It's... You know, a lot of people seem to agree with him that, you know, like television show versions of novels or obviously movies can never really kind of like accurately capture what it is that the books themselves do well. And then oftentimes they go out of their way even to, at least sounds like in his opinion, sort of do it better and usually in the process maybe make it worse.
So, you know, Game of Thrones is based on his novels.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones very quickly kind of takes an alternate path from his novels, mostly because he's not finished writing the series himself in real life.
Yeah, I remember that was a thing.
And many people say that that's actually when the TV series started to fall off, was when they were kind of just doing their own thing with the Game of Thrones universe.
Yeah.
How do you've watched some adaptations of books?
Yeah, I've got a big one. I got Harry Potter. I have plenty of thoughts on that, but I was gonna let you.
So, I don't necessarily agree with Martin, and it's not that and I think he's wrong. He's such an idiot. How dare he think that? It's just that I'm okay. I'm a little weird.
Okay.
I read and I've read a lot there's so many books that I've read that have been turned into movies that I should have the same opinion as him. But I'm weird. So I don't actually like retain so much of the knowledge of the books that I've read. When Larry talks about Lord of the Rings, he can quote it left and right. When you talk about Harry Potter, you can quote it left and right. I can't do that with almost anything I've read. So for me, I'm never that critical of adaptations of books. I'm not so married to the source material.
Yeah.
I have issues when they make major departures. Like if a character lives that should have died, okay, now I have an issue. But a lot of the smaller details that people get hung up on with these adaptations, I usually didn't remember them to begin with.
Yeah, so I've got plenty to say on this. I'll try to keep it concise. It's just, Harry Potter's kind of it's my big like core memory book series. I've read, plenty of novels, but it's just the one that I have it's my fandom, so to speak. And if you get into the Harry Potter fandom, there's plenty of dissenting opinions about the movies and how good of a job they did with adapting them. The common consensus would be that the first two movies were very faithful to the novels, and after that, it kind of starts to go downhill. And I tend to agree. Like after
which ones were the first three?
The first two is Sorcerer's Stone or Philosopher's Stone, and Chamber of Secrets. Okay. And they both have the same director, Chris Columbus. He directed like Home Alone and stuff like that. And they very faithfully recreate the castle. They kind of capture the magic really well, and a lot of the dialogue is pretty like down to the line, very accurate with the book. And there's very few things that are cut. There are some things that are like cut for brevity and stuff like that, but generally speaking, they're very faithful to the characters, the script, the area, the pacing, all of it, right? But after that, you run into this big issue where these books start to get a little long. And then you also get a new director. And a different person directed the third movie, then a different person directed the fourth movie, and then a different person directed the fifth through the eighth movie. So you've got a bunch of different directors kind of putting their own like fingerprints on the formula, changing how kind of things look, things function. And changes range from like, changing how the Hogwarts castle itself looks from the first two films, and like the way that the students wear their uniforms. Like they no longer wear like the hats, and they don't wear their robes as much. When
those hats did disappear.
Yeah, the hats do disappear. Oh. Yeah, and also like in starting in the third movie, they wear like Muggle clothing even when they're just kind of out and about on the grounds, like wearing like a hoodie and jeans. Whereas in the book, that's never a thing. Yeah, they're not really allowed to do that. They wear robes all the time. And it's like kind of an artistic choice thing, and it maybe works better on screen because like American or really any audiences could maybe relate more, that they look kind of like more like teenagers.
Like us.
But a lot of people don't like that, and they feel that really deviates a lot from like kind of the DNA of Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. In addition to characters having their personalities or kind of big moments changed, sanded down, and that's all on top of like the problem that you get where like translating book to screen just can't be the same, because like if you're following, say in this case Harry, like when you read the Harry Potter books, you read Harry's perspective,
right?
But in the movies, you can't get his perspective because you can't like read his mind and like kind of have the inner monologue and inner narration. So you kind of lose certain aspects of him misunderstanding something or being maybe angry or judgmental or whatever. So he just kind of comes across as more like kind of just okay with everything or whatever. And that happens with plenty of characters. Anyway, without getting into too much more of that, I'll just say that I agree with George R.R. Martin here. I think like it's tough to like translate book to screen, but I don't have a problem with the movies being like their own flavor of a book. It's just like if they actually change some like a crucial detail, I don't like that. So I totally get that you have to cut out characters, and I totally get that you have to like abbreviate certain arcs and characters, like character arcs and just story beats, because like you can't always translate everything faithfully. It's just like you said, if a character literally dies in one version of the medium and does not die in the other,
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I'm not okay with that, because that's like now an actually different story than so.
But I will say this: every artist has their own medium. Mm-hmm. There's a reason authors aren't directors.
Yeah.
That is a skill set that they do not have. The book is the book, the film is the film. Mm-hmm. Let the director, let the screenwriters do what they do. And if they're making it their own, I mean, you can't, like George and anyone else, you can't make a movie.
Do you know what's kind of interesting that now that you mentioned that, it gave me a thought. I sometimes feel like this is probably in credit to like film directors. Whenever, like, you know how these days a lot of like Hollywood's scared to really try new things.
Yep.
Right. Like we rehash, we reboot, we make like live action versions of some novel because it's safe and there's a you
can always make a prequel.
You can always make a prequel. You can always just find some old book and redo it. But it's tough to like make new things. And so when you're a director in Hollywood or a producer or anything really, you have to kind of put your DNA on these existing stories because it's too much to ask for like original ideas to get greenlit these days and really be expected to succeed. So you instead take Dune or Harry Potter or Game of Thrones or whatever, and as a director, you really probably would prefer to actually be telling your own original story. But since you've just been chosen to direct a rendition of this existing story, I kind of have some, like, I want to throw them some bail in that, like, well, go ahead, put some of your, like, own original, like, takes into this. And because, like, I mean, you're not going to get to probably do it any other time at a scale where people will see it.
Right.
So.
And quickly, I just want to segue into, now this was a story that I was going to bring on, but it was really just a quote that people were mad about.
Okay.
But it's 100% related here.
Okay.
So Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy says she told the Acolyte creator, that's the series that's going to come out on Disney Plus, "You've written a great Star Wars show. Now go write a Leslie Headland show." So Leslie Headland is she's a showrunner for the Acolyte. When they initially did their drafts for the Acolyte TV show, Kenny liked it, but that's where she said this quote: "Now go make this your own." In that way, she greenlit exactly what we're saying here.
That's refreshing to hear.
Now people hate it.
So what do people not like? Maybe I'm missing context.
Bastardization of the Star Wars franchise is how they see it.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. So you know what? That is a really related quote. And you know why? Because I think that we are now at a point where it genuinely feels like, there's this weird impasse. Mm-hmm. Hollywood knows that it is risky to try a new thing. Telling an actually new story will typically flop, or there's more marketing involved with,
it's
like,
harder
trying
to get it to take.
Yeah. So you make another Star Wars show on Disney Plus. You make another,
Mad Max Furiosa.
Yeah, I know, I've heard about that. And just like you remake, you reboot, you revisit, you prequelize, sequelize, make a spinoff of an existing thing. But like, and we as viewers complain about it a lot. You hear a lot of complaints about, like, wow, can like Hollywood just do something new for a change? Like, we're tired of, the 17 billionth Marvel movie and all that stuff. But simultaneously, you're like, you see where it gets with quotes like that, where people are angry because it's like, well, we don't want her to direct this thing because, like, it's going to ruin the core tenets of, like, Star Wars and bastardize it.
It's going to break the rules.
Yeah, or, this is ruining Lord of the Rings. This is ruining whatever the Marvel comics were, or this bastardized this story or whatever. And so it's like, I could be wrong, and these are just different people. But I almost feel like we are being hypocrites here, where it's like, we want something new, but when something new happens, we won't watch it. We won't seek it out either. There
was that story about, was it The Fall Guy?
Yeah, the Fall Guy. Like, we will let these movies flop or whatever. But then also, like, we don't want our babies, our precious, like, things from our childhood to be tarnished in any way or changed too much or go woke or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you'll hear all these things. So it's like, what do we want? Like, and I'm not saying that I have an answer, but just that, like, what do we want? Like, do we want
Fast 13? I actually can't tell what number we're on. Fast and Furious.
Yeah. So, like what, just how we kind of, we want the safe thing. We don't want the safe thing to change. but we want the new thing, but we don't really want the new, or like we won't watch the new thing. It's tricky. Like I'm not going to profess to have an answer, like I said, but just that I have
Hollywood
noticed,
doesn't have an answer either.
Yeah, more and more as like you bring up that quote, and also like the Martin quote, right?
Yeah,
where it's like he kind of feels like, well, like they take these books and they don't quite do it right, and they try to put their own like flavor on it, and it kind of, at least it sounds like he's not a big fan of that.
He likes more faithful adaptations.
So yeah, I don't envy someone who's like trying to get into film directing and be successful in it.
What you're saying is you feel bad for Hollywood. You're on the side of Hollywood.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I am a big Hollywood apologist here. I don't know. Yeah, it sucks.
But you know what doesn't suck? Our viewer submitted questions.
That's true. So today I'm going to be reading them off the tablet.
We ran out of sleeves, guys.
Because I ran out of the clear sleeves that I normally use. I'll have them again. Okay. There are lots of great new questions, though. Plenty of things to talk about. Somebody actually suggested talking about the two men who forged the PSA graded cards. So,
okay. We did.
For you, we actually talked about that. But, anywho. So here's an interesting question. Is Konami going to use the new AI they're developing in Master Duel for single player? Do you think they'll allow us to duel against it using any deck, and we could choose what meta deck to duel against? So this is about that whole like they announced that they're kind of working on an AI intelligent dueling system that was announced at the Tokyo Dome. And so this person's just asking, like, what do you think they'll maybe use it for?
It should be implemented in Master Duel.
100% agree.
They definitely should be. Now, will they? Because it feels like they don't like messing with the base functionality of Master. They don't like adding new things to it. At least, or maybe it's not that they don't like to. They just haven't done it up till now. So that would be a major change for them, and we just haven't seen them do that.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. I would love it. I'd love to be able to like play test against things and just kind of, have it work intelligently. Like I remember when I used to play like EDO Pro a lot, and it actually had like a bot sort of thing you could play against. And when it was playing against the pre-made decks that like came with the program, it actually played them like reasonably well. It wasn't a super complex bot. Like it kind of had a script that would do the optimal like Alistair kind of line of play, and then like end with a Mechaba and a this, and and it was decent for like testing your decks against. But I would like something that kind of feels dynamic and it adjusts and adapts based on what you play and stuff. I think that they'll add it to Master Duel because you can already see pieces of it. Like Master Duel keeps a running tally of like cards win percentages,
right?
And like also their like usage percentages and like stats like that.
It has all the data it would need.
So it could probably infer that like, oh, if I let them resolve this Snake Eye Ash, then they have a very high chance of winning this duel. So I will use Infinite Impermanence on it, and it could kind of like feed from that data. So I'm pretty sure they're planning on adding it in, right?
That'd be funny if it does use like percentage data, because the most popular deck in the format, its percentages will always be lower than what reality would how it works in reality. Like it could read like Snake Eye Ash as actually not being that important, because just as many Snake Eyes players win with the card as they do like lose with it. And it's like, oh, well, this card's not that high priority.
Yeah, they're gonna have to work out kinks like that, because
like Snake Eye Ash, you should definitely not let resolve ever if you can.
Yeah, like if you can avoid it, it's certainly.
But it's like,
good,
the card's like a 50-50.
Yeah, I'd like to see them do this. I think players would appreciate it, and that at least and like that seems like it's a low financial commitment for them. Like they're already working on it.
Hey, they're already working on
game
it.
Mode.
It shouldn't be that bad, but what do I know?
Okay, so here's another one. If Konami stopped selling new Yu-Gi-Oh products today, do you think the game would still be played, either organized or unorganized? Do you think the players would take control of the game and moderate it to any reasonable level? Keep up the great work, Chase. Thank you, Chase.
Ooh, this is tough.
So
I want to say yes.
I think so too. I think that Konami would, if they just like no more new Yu-Gi-Oh products today. It's still like a big 3 game, and it would still remain a big 3 game for the next few years at least. Just like we said earlier, that big 3 thing carries you further than maybe you even have a right to be carried.
Right.
But I think players would still try to kind of figure things out. Alternate formats would be shaky at the start, I'm sure, agreeing on like, Like, if there'd be a camp of people who are just like, whatever the ban list is today, like that this all ended, is just the ban list forever. And it kind of becomes an eternal snapshot.
Right.
Then there are other people who are like, okay, well, Konami's not making anything else, so let's take it in our own hands and do like a Smogon approach. And
I mean, because we saw that with what company was that started their own circuit and they stopped?
Oh, ARG.
Yeah, ARG. They made their own circuit when there's like, oh, Konami's not really getting the job done. We're gonna handle it.
Yeah.
And I think almost immediately there would be an ARG like circuit made.
Yeah, someone would have to take the reins.
But Yu-Gi-Oh's in such a strong position because now with Time Wizard format, like Edison and stuff, like they're already used to Konami not giving them new cards.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that players would try to do that. It would be, I guess, a grassroots effort.
Yeah,
I don't know that we would ever be able to have like YCS scale events because like who's going to take the loss on that?
Yes, that would be tough.
Like, I think at that point, it's just you're just going to get a game you play at locals. Because I mean, and that's a lot of money to like rent out.
But then again,
it could happen.
What's crazy is
it
could actually end up being even bigger than what it is today. Because if it were fan made, none of the rules that
have been made have to ever apply.
Yeah, really. We wouldn't have to abide by like whatever constraints Konami has to act under.
Yeah, the only trouble is just agreement. Like, do people agree that a certain rule should change, or that like, Smogon is respected now. Like, if you follow the Smogon rules, that is like some people just don't follow Smogon; they just play like whatever the VGC thinks. But like, Smogon it's kind of become this respected authority within that part of the competitive Pokemon game community. But it probably was like tough to get there. Like the path to becoming that sort of source of the authoritative thing. And then also like today that'd be harder. Because like in the Smogon days when it was probably first forming, things weren't as argumentative online as they are now. Like at least that's kind of how I think it would go. I don't know.
I mean, we could also look at something like the Smash Brothers community, how they hold on to the games that they love despite them no longer being worked on anymore. And even with the latest Smash Ultimate, people are still showing up to Smash Ultimate tournaments. The last balance patch is just the last. That's just how the game is now. And you don't see people saying, "Well, I want to go back to this patch when my character could do this, that, and the other."
Yeah. So here's another Yu-Gi-Oh one. Yu-Gi-Oh's most popular formats seem to be just time periods of play, Edison, GOAT, etc.
Yeah.
Do you have any more creative ideas for a fun format that aren't just only cards from the year 2005, 2009? For example, I like the Master Duel event where everyone starts with a Nibiru. I think something like that in the TCG would be really interesting, from Blue Yeti. So, we actually talked about this not long before we started recording today.
Did we?
Well, the idea that there could be a fun format where like it's boss monster based.
Oh, yeah.
I think that could be cool. Like, there's a certain boss monster that your deck has. Mm-hmm. And not even necessarily calling it a deck master, although that could be cool too. But just like, we were reflecting on how, maybe you have better words for this. Like how you don't have time to get your boss monster out in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Like your themed boss monster. Oftentimes like they're just not worth, or like making the big win more cool, flashy boss monster isn't usually worth it.
It's hitting that win condition, doing the thing that you built the deck to do. Oftentimes in Yu-Gi-Oh, you don't actually get to do it. Either the game ends too early, or if you do it, you lose immediately.
Yeah, like would there just be a way to make a format where it's like, okay, making that big level 12 thing that your archetype has that nobody actually plays, if that was like somehow the win con you're working towards in the game, could give you the time to do it. I
think that's what those guys who came up with the main format, that's what they kind of tout as the as one of the hallmarks of their format. Their kind of singleton Highlander Commander-esque format.
I've always thought, and this is just one of many drop in the bucket ideas, something cool. A lot of people I notice will say things like, oh, like Yu-Gi-Oh should 3 special summons per turn or something, like some kind of arbitrary limit on summoning or whatever, which is hard to implement, I think. But something I think could be cool, I read this online somewhere and I've thought about it myself, is like, what if basically there was sort of a 3-2-1 fight sort of element to Yu-Gi-Oh, where basically for the first X turns of the game, neither player interacts. Mm-hmm. You just build your board. like you cannot attack and you cannot negate anything that your opponent does either. You can't like really interact with them. You're just spending like your first couple turns building up something, and then like the game opens.
Can I use D-Barrier?
That's where this all falls apart because I don't know what cards aren't allowed to be, you know. But that's just the broad concept I have. Is like, what if you got time to set up and then like, okay, now we let down the barriers and we both get to.
Now I've mentioned this a few times. We talk about like how Yu-Gi-Oh could be or maybe should be played. I talked about how there's a rule set in chess where both players set up. They kind of like skip the first couple turns and set up their openers, and then just immediately start interacting and playing.
Yeah,
they just like we're in many chess games. The first few turns are just scripted. We're just doing our openers.
Obligatory.
Why even bother doing all that? Let's just set up the board and now we play.
Yeah. That's like something I'd like to see. I think that it does suck that we're always like, I think we run to the snapshot in time formats because you no longer have to argue with someone over like what the exact rules should be. You can just start to be like, okay, this was just how it was, so we're just gonna follow that.
It's like
it's easier.
It's a little bit easier. There's less discussion needed. There's less argument. There are less arguments that need to be had. Any other rule set, it's harder to get as many people on board
because fragmentation will kill. Like a lot of these ideas.
Yu-Gi-Oh decks are hyper specific. It's really, if you ever make a rule that's not, any rule. If you ever make a rule, like an additional rule in Yu-Gi-Oh, someone's deck doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, and there's always kind of a perceived bias towards like, okay, well, you just made this so your decks can work well and mine can. Okay, which is better, Apple phones or Android phones?
Android?
Yeah, this is what a person asked.
Okay.
Yu-Gi-Oh thing.
Just say,
I use an Android phone.
I have used an Apple phone way in the past, and I'm very upset with myself for having done so.
You were an iPhoner, I think, when I first met
you. Was because that was my first smartphone, and when I found out that Androids could change their wallpapers without needing to be jailbroken,
that was the switch you needed.
I needed an Android.
So I'm in a weird spot. I use a Google Pixel phone. They're kind of trash. I mean, they have cool software features and stuff, but they're not the best phones overall. However, I use an iPad. So, I mean, like, I'm not, like...
I'm still disappointed.
Hey, I mean, I'm not anti-Apple or anything. Like, I like the iPad. I think it's great. But the only problem I have with the iPad is I do still feel those, like, constraints that Apple likes to kind of put on a lot of it.
They just want to keep it user-friendly. I get it.
Yeah, they keep it accessible, but they're just sort of like... You don't get to really like change this setting or change that setting or like kind of so.
I bricked my old iPhone so many times.
What I've noticed too is like nowadays iPhone and Android have honestly they're almost the same thing now. Like they all have like the same features really.
Yeah, nowadays they feel so much closer. I remember because I use Samsung phones, and I remember when Samsung phones were considered cheaper than iPhones. But
lo and behold, now they're actually more expensive on average.
Like the last one I paid for was, I remember I had this like this setting. I said I'm not paying more than like $600 for a phone, and which is expensive in general. But I set a limit. Samsung broke the limit, and I'm like, oh okay, so this is what we're doing now, and
yeah,
it's just
now all phones just cost like $1,000.
They're just expensive and. Your choice is this. Do you have an Apple? Do you have Apple TV? Do you have an iTunes account?
It's so much more.
Then you go iOS.
Ecosystem thing, like, right? Yeah.
What ecosystem are you in? It reminds me a lot
like PlayStation and Xbox and stuff. Like you kind of pick your console just based on what do your friends play, what do you own more of, what did you play last gen?
Like I can't switch to Microsoft because my data is all in like PlayStation. Like that's how it is.
Last bonus question. When will Alec and AI get together?
Okay, look, guys, I hate AI. AI to me will never be more than just a tool I use to make like little things slightly easier. I will never let AI be a person. I will never talk to AI.
You're not going to let your AI concierge date for you on Bumble?
God, no.
Okay, well,
I can fail at relationships myself.
Yeah, that's right. That answers that question. I'll have my AI waifu or something on some app, I'll talk to her for a little bit.
I'm not interested.
No, I'm the same. I truly have no interest in ever engaging with like an AI companion type. No,
I won't consume AI artwork, movies, videos, nothing.
As far as you know, what if Marvel Rivals has AI?
As long as I can recognize it as AI, I will never engage with it. Yeah. Now there is the horrifying reality that one day it will be hard to identify,
indistinguishable.
If that happens, I'm screwed.
Well, I guess that's a good place to end it. Thank you guys so much for your questions. I got a lot of them this week. I actually regret that we couldn't answer more. So maybe next week we'll try to
we'll get a few bonuses. That's fair.
Bonus questions. Cool. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let us know what you thought of any of the topics that we discussed, whether that's Yu-Gi-Oh related or
card game in general,
card game stuff.
Oh, are you faking PSA grades?
Yeah. Were you the ones going to jail? Cool. All right. I guess we'll see you guys next week at the normal time on Thursday.
That's right.
Pass turn.